Today's date? The 20th of May. Good evening. It's 6:08 p.m. I'd like to call to order the Tiburon Parks Open Space and Trails Commission on May the 20th. It looks like we lost one of our colleagues briefly. But why don't you call the roll, David?
Chair Holmbrook,
Here.
Vice Chair Moon,
Here.
Commissioner Burr,
Here.
Commissioner Ghaffari,
Here.
and we have Commissioner Judge is here. She just stepped out.
Yeah,
Well,
she'll be back. Terrific. Thank you, David. Is there any oral communications? I believe there might be.
so at this time, if there's anything that you want to discuss here, you have 3 minutes, but they should be for items that are not on the agenda. So if there's anybody in chambers that would like to speak on any item not on the agenda, you can do it now, and online as well. Please raise your hand if you want to speak on any item not on the agenda.
It is. So not on the agenda. It could be about why is the sky blue? It could be about anything.
We do have 3 hands raised.
Excellent. Well, David, let's go online and just reminder to everybody who's here in chambers and also online is that if you could please just state that you're where you're from and your name. You don't have to give your last name if you don't want to. That's fine. But just if you live in Tiburon, and then it's 3 minutes, and it's not a question answer session, but it's just 3 minutes. But we really appreciate everybody's comments on this, and it's very important for us in our democracy. So thank you. First up,
We have Kira.
Kira, are
Can
you?
hear me?
There you go. We can hear you. Yeah.
You can hear me. Okay, great. So my name is Kira. I'm a resident of Tiburon and I live on Lagoon View Drive. On Sunday morning, May 18th, I was walking my 2 leash dogs on a trail near Ridge Fire Road. A ranger arrived on Ridge Road and raised his hands above his head, waving to me and shouting out that I was not allowed to walk my dogs on the trail. We walked towards each other with him continuing on that dogs are only allowed on the fire roads and not on the trails. We entered a disagreement. He told me that he was warning me rather than citing me. I told him about the entrances from the different roadways and nothing seemed to matter. I left the area, returned a short time later after gathering information on paper for him to see the trail entry points from multiple roadways, including signage from Lagoon View Drive that clearly states leash dogs are permitted. Our disagreement continued, and then he saw another person, a neighbor who I recognized, on the trail in nearly the same spot where I was earlier when he waved me down. He continued his same points with this neighbor, and they also entered into a disagreement. He continued on with the neighbor regarding her dog, and their disagreement continued to escalate as I stood observing their interaction. And when he stated he was giving a lawful order to the neighbor and continued onto his radio, I walked away and returned home. Later, I walked back up to the area to see if he was still present and saw a sheriff's truck and the ranger departing down Ridge Road. I am making a statement tonight for 4 reasons. 1, to bring awareness to the issue that people walking their dogs on the trails of Old St. Hilary Preserve is actively being prevented. Old St. Hilary Preserve is managed by Marin County Open Space District, MCOSD. The second is to bring attention to the need for the trails on Old St. Hilary's Preserve to be included on the map of MCOSD. While they are not labeled as, quote, system trails, according to the MCOSD district code regulations, they are trails according to the same MCOSD district code. Chapter 2.05.010, dogs and other animals, line 8 states, dogs must be leashed on all roads and trails in those preserves designated as leash only. These trails are known to neighbors over decades. We use them to hike with and without our dogs. The trails are seen from Google Earth and visible to people using trail applications. Third, I want to be sure that the trail signage on the end of Lagoon View Drive is not removed, nor the pedestrian gate on Mountain View Drive, which is a newly installed pedestrian gate, further showing that this is a pedestrian trail route. Fourth, I'm asking that the community start paying attention to how the money raised from Measure A is being spent. In closing, I believe that when Measure M was passed, people believed that they could hike with their dogs on the trails, not just the fire roads of the Old St. Hilary Preserve, as they have been walked historically. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Kara. Appreciate it. David?
Yes, we have Ian.
Ian, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, so my name is Ian Altman. I reside in the Cypress Hollow neighborhood in Tiburon. I wish to speak to the lack of progress in addressing repairs to our little Cypress Hollow Park. I realize that is an agenda item later, but not specific to the issue I'm raising. I actually addressed this committee 3 full years ago, asking a fairly simple request of simply planting some grass and repairing the irrigation. The committee was quite responsive at the time to my request. It seemed like it was going to happen. Then it got delayed. There was a full survey, then the strategic plan. Now then there's a hiring of an architect and another survey and so forth. So it's been 3 years. And so I'd like to just make the following points. One, I hope we're trying to be patient in the neighborhood, but it would be great if we could move forward. Second, there are a few items which we've always been opposed to, but they seemingly keep coming up. Bathroom porta potty was removed from the site based on the action of this committee in 2020. And then a proposal to replace grass with artificial turf is uniform or widely disliked in the neighborhood. So I just, I know it's something you're going to be updating on later, but I would just remind the committee that this is something that we're patiently or not waiting for. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ian.
We have one more, Jacqueline.
Jacqueline?
Let me unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Jackie Leong. I live on 1835 Mountain View Drive. I just want to bring to the committee's attention that I did submit a written comment on the open space and dog walking, similar to the point that Kira was making earlier. I just want to make sure that committee member have access to that email. It's submitted in written comment format to David as shown earlier. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Is there any other public comments there?
No other public comments.
Terrific, thanks. We will close public comments at this time. I will note that both Kira and Jacqueline were not alone. I also was told to not have my dog on the fire road, and I was also sent a note to the Marin County Open Space and our supervisor today, and I will plan on, if it makes it in their schedule, to hopefully somebody from Marin County Open Space can come and address this commission in our next meeting in June or July to address these issues. I felt it very, very weird to have a sheriff with a gun up on Ridge Road. So that's how I spent my Sunday with our new adopted dog. So thank you very much for your comments. And Ian, hopefully we'll be able to address some of the items that you spoke on. David, next item I think on is commission and staff briefings.
Yes, for commission and staff briefings, I just want to let the public know and the residents that tomorrow we have a town council meeting. At that meeting, we'll have the Parks, Open Space and Trails Commission members there to present their findings to town council. At that meeting, we'll also going to award, Public Works will award 3 projects with the blessing of town council. One is to repave Paradise Drive from Sanitary District 5 all the way to the county limits. It's a very large project, complete repaving of that street. The other one is to help mitigate some of the flooding issues over there near Bel Air Park. We're going to award a project to upsize the storm drain infrastructure out there on Karen Way and Claren between the park. And then a third project that Public Works is going to move forward with, if town council chooses to, will be the design of a large trash capture device at Fountain Plaza. This is something that the state is mandating by 2030. All municipalities put in these trash capture devices to limit pollution into the bay. So that'll be another project. That'll be actually a design project. It's about half, I want to say it's 35% designed right now. We're going to take it to 100. We're going to have close to $60,000 grant money from Caltrans for that. And then Caltrans will cover 100% of the construction cost for it next summer. So that's what we're moving forward
Great.
with.
Thanks, David. And for clarification, for the item from Post, it's going to be specifically on the linear park component,
Correct.
right? So for those wanting to come to town council tomorrow, it would be specifically on linear park. And then also for those who may not get Tiburon Talk, which is the email that comes out every 2 weeks or every week from the town clerk, it was explicitly noted, and I think everybody here should pay attention to that, is that the first meeting in June, the first Wednesday of June, is when they go through their budget. And those items that we're addressing here will also be brought up there, and other specific items. So I think I know it's a juggling match, and I think that the ARC does a great job memorializing these pieces for us after the fact. However, it's really important if you can be on Zoom or listen to those parts to be able to comment and add notes and or write into this commission regarding things on our agenda or also into town council. So specifically, again, June 3rd is the first budget meeting in which they will be going through capital improvement plan budget items. Right, CIP? Okay, terrific. Thank you, David. All right, I think we're on the minutes now. All right, so I reviewed the minutes once. They seem fine. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes for March 17th? You guys good? All right, so a motion to pass the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
I need a second. Thank you. Mr. Burr?
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Motion passes.
Motion passes. Terrific. Now we're on to discussion items, and I'd like for those listening and also here in chambers is that we will go through the first item, D1, which is the post-commission recommendation for park amenities. So we've asked staff to give us sort of like an update on like, hey, what's going on these things that we passed and if they were captured. The next thing I'd like to do is actually, I'm going to ask Commissioner Moon and Commissioner Judge to actually go move D3 ahead of D2 so that we can continue on the great work that you guys were doing regarding the Blackie's Pasture presentation. So everybody here on our commission can see that, as well as additional people who may have just joined us here in chambers and also online. And then after that, we'll continue along with the agenda as written. So terrific. David, you're up to D1.
Yes, so Chair and Commissioners and members of the public. So for D1, we came to Post with a lot of activity and discussions on park amenities this year so far. And I put together a list of motions that were passed by the Post Commission related to park amenities. January 29th meeting, the motion was to recommend for Town Council consideration at a future meeting to request town staff to hire a landscape designer to provide a preliminary design and request amenities from the community and Post for the 3 mini parks. So that motion passed 4-0 with all of the commissioners that were present. Then we had a second motion that same day was to recommend town staff to analyze possible SUP and paddleboard launch locations and make recommendations for town council consideration at a future meeting, and that also passed 4-0. So that was our January 29th meeting. March 17th, post-commission meeting. Again, the post-commission recommended town council to prioritize the Richardson Bay Sanitary District pond sites for development and hire again a landscape designer to work with staff on future development of this site. So we did go to town council on March 19th, and town council did direct staff to move forward with the following recommendations that I'm going to read, with particular emphasis and priority on items that they underlined, that I've underlined, so I could emphasize those, and any other items that are listed and related to the underlined priority needs. So these are the items that they want staff to move forward with, and that's why it's so important what Chair Holmbrook mentioned, that the budget that it's going to be presented in June has some money, some funds in there that will make a lot of these items happen. But also at tomorrow's meeting with town council, they're going to again guide staff and Post on additional priorities and what they would like us to move forward with. So some of the items that they directed staff to move forward with was to improve the drainage at Bel Air play area, and we are actually doing that with our project that's going to be awarded hopefully tomorrow for our storm drain project. Increased maintenance and trash removal at Bel Air Play Area. We've got that in our budget as well with staff to increase maintenance and provide more. The other one is to provide more provide clear rules and regulations for dogs at Bel Air Play Area. That again is in our fiscal year 26 budget to go out and design new signage to be placed, well, brought here to Post Commission, approved, and then have those put out there. Maintain and enhance landscaping and trees at Belvron Mini Park. Again, that is part of our budget moving forward. We have extra funds in there with our tree masters and some of the different tree outfits out there that provide services for the town. This one is emphasized. It's replace and upgrade the playground equipment, and surfaces using universal design at Cypress Hollow Park. So that right there we will move forward with. Again, we've asked for funding in fiscal year 26 for that. Again, another emphasis, restore lawn and improve maintenance at Cypress Hollow Park. That is part of our fiscal year 26 budget, what we're asking for. Another emphasis here is implement design interventions and signage to slow speeds on the old rail trail. That is part of our fiscal year 26 sign program and wayfinding sign program that we're putting forth for approval. Improve key trail connections, including creating clearly marked on-street connections between trailheads along Richardson Bay and trails in upland areas. Link downtown with Tiburon Ridge with a new trailhead at Tether Park and improve clearly marked routes to the ridge. Again, that's all part of our sign program that we're proposing in fiscal year 26. Pursue opportunities to link segments of Tiburon Ridge Trail. We will work on that as well with our consultant. We have some funding in there as well for fiscal year 26. Create a welcoming gateway for access to Old St. Hilary's and larger open space network at Tether Park. Remove building deficiencies and deferred maintenance items at the ranch at Dairy Knoll as detailed in the facilities assessment in Chapter 2 of the Parks Master Plan. We have funding proposed in our fiscal year 26 for that as well. And then these next three here are emphasized. Promote Zielinski Park and adjacent Library Plaza for events, which we are doing. Pursue a feasibility study for inclusive playground at Zielinski Park. Again, that'll be part of our fiscal year 26 proposal to Town Council. Create identity for parks and open space system and individual park and open spaces through naming, signage, and digital presence. Again, that is part of our fiscal year 26 budget request. We're asking for Town Council to allow us to hire a consultant to create signs, have a more digital presence with mapping of all our amenities here in Tiburon. The next one is establish a public arts program with clear review roles, locations, and parameters. And again, that we're going to be working with our Heritage and Arts Committee, and the master plan, the approved master plan, does have locations where art can be displayed. So we will work with them on that, and I believe they do have funding. Heritage and Arts will have funding for establishing their programs moving forward. This one's emphasized. Work with partners to explore the creation of a kayak SUP launch. We're working with the subcommittee here for that, Commissioner Judge and Ghaffari, and we'll provide an update for you on that. And that is emphasized. Increase community awareness of the programming at the ranch and bring the community room at Town Hall back into use. And we are actually doing that. A lot of the ranch programs are back here at the recreation room upstairs. And then these last two are emphasized. Incorporate sea level rise adaptation into park design at Richardson Bay, including consideration of the drainage through Blackie's Pasture and nature-based improvements at Greenwood Beach. So again, that'll be part of the motion for tomorrow moving forward that the Post subcommittee will bring forth. And the last one, life cycle replacement and or improvement of play structures, existing play structures. So that, again, these are all emphasized, and it is important that you do go to the Town Council meeting on June 4th, because the budget will have funds, proposed funds for a lot of these. And between now and then, depending on tomorrow, how council, once they hear this discussion item or this action item from the subcommittee, they may decide to add additional stuff or remove stuff. So, and then even at the June 4th meeting with the proposed budget of what we're asking, what staff is asking for the funds that we're asking for, we're requesting, town council may increase them, decrease them, or move them around into different areas. So those are some of the motions that were passed by the Post Commission at the March meeting. Town council recommended staff to move forward with everything that I read here. That's also in the action minutes online, so you'll be able to see that at the town council action minutes. And also, town council did say at that meeting they would like the Post Commission to come back at a future meeting to provide them with everything that we saw here in the workshop, because they want to hear what the residents want, what the Post Commission has done, what their recommendations are. They heard it from staff, but they want to actually hear it now that the Post Commission has done a lot of outreach with the surveys, have met with a lot of residents, and Liz and Commissioner Judge and Commissioner Vice Chair Moon have done a lot of outreach for the lineal park. So they want to hear all that from them, and then based on what they hear, provide feedback to us moving forward. But I just want to let everybody know that our CIP budget is very robust. Moving forward, we are requesting, what we can, but again, it all depends on the amount that's available after all of our programs. We have drainage program that we have to maintain. We have a paving program that we must maintain, and then we have community programs that we must maintain. They're earmarked money for those only. So everything for these park amenities will come out of general fund. So the town council does need to look at how much money's coming in and what's going out to ensure that we're good moving forward for the upcoming years.
Thank you, David. So what we'll do, we've changed these from informational to discussion. So actually we can have a discussion. I don't make the rules. I just follow them. So, but we can ask David some questions first, and then we'll open it up for any comments on what David just talked about from anybody here or anybody online. And then we'll have any other discussion if we think it's necessary, knowing that there's other action items that touch on some of these pieces, just to keep the meeting moving along, that we're not here till the end of
Yeah, should
time.
we just remind people what are the items that we're gonna be able to discuss individually, so we don't
Well, so on
do
the,
everything?
well, so all the discussion items would be anything in the subcommittees that we're following. I do have a
Parks, Lackey's Patch, or sanitation.
so sure, I could read through them, yeah.
Paddleboard stuff, public swimming, Zelensky Park, just for people.
Yes, an open space. But I do have a question, David, on a couple items, if anybody, we made 3 motions. I'm specifically just talking about post motions, and one of them will be the prioritization of moving forward on the sub, which is great. And then, and also on the settling ponds, which is great. So those 2 are covered. The one piece, David, I wasn't clear is whether or not did the town hire, or in the budget, will the town hire a designer for the mini parks to help with suggestions that we have from other items later on today? That's all. Yes or no?
We do have a budget in there for us to hire a landscape architect that will work on the mini parks, but we don't have one in there yet for the lineal park until
Okay.
tomorrow. But yeah, we have some time.
Okay, great. So that will then help move forward on all these other items that were raised. Okay, great. Any other questions for David on what that lengthy list he just went through? Okay. Comments from those in chambers? Please step up to the mic. And state your name, however much you want to say your name, where you live, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm Jenna. I'm a Tiburon resident and parent. Thank you so much for that very comprehensive update. I just had one quick question. So what is the total amount that's being requested for all of those items that were listed? Do you have a total yet?
We have 30 items total for the CIP for next year. Out of the 12 are Parks Master Plan related out of the 30.
But I think Jed is asking dollars.
So dollar amounts, we are looking at, these are just estimates. Close to almost 850,000.
That's, sorry, let me just write that down. That's for just the park items or that's for all 30?
That's just park items, all 30 were, we have a $6 million CIP.
And like the storm sewer improvements at Bel Air, is that considered park or something else?
That's drainage. So the number I'm giving you is strictly not from the programming. These are just CIP one-off projects that are related to
Okay.
the.
So I want to make sure it's, so in the June 3rd budget, so in the tomorrow's meeting will be the Public Works project for Bel Air. And then in the June 3rd will be all these other items that haven't even happened yet, if that makes sense. So, but we can we can follow up later. I just want to make sure we keep moving.
But there are no park, it didn't sound like there were any real like park recreation amenities proposed for Bel Air. Everything was kind of more drainage.
The designer, hiring a designer to say like, you should put
Oh, the
a,
designer was for Bel Air as well? It's
For
the
all
mini-
three.
for all
parks.
three.
Okay, there's a lot.
There's a lot going on here, yes.
I'm sure the ARC will summarize everything very clearly, right? Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure. Actually, David, I have another question, but I'll wait for after public comment. Is there any other public comment in the chambers? Yes, sir.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good.
Chris Hartung. I'm here representing the Reed Heights Tiburon Knolls Property Owners Association, and just want to say thank you guys for your outreach, particularly Commissioners Judge and Moon. They actually did a whole session for our Property Owners Association to get feedback and solicit concerns. That was really great. We don't take official positions, but I just wanted to articulate back to you all that the comments we received were generally very supportive and really thankful for the approach that seems to be really about enhancements and improvements to the existing use concepts within the lands rather than, major changes, and taking everybody's concerns about impact and others was just, I think, really heartening from our members. And so just wanted to thank you guys for that and pass on those items that we heard about.
That's
Thank you.
great to hear. Thank you.
you. Any other questions or comments here in chambers for 3 minutes? Come on up to the mic.
Question, speaking to the whole group, so I'm just standing here.
But there's people on the phone. So Becky, there's people on the phone, so they need to be able to hear you.
Sit down. I'm speaking loudly so that everybody can hear.
Okay.
So, my question is really for David Ishu. I want to know what the budget is for designer after we decide what it is that we sort of want to ask for, and then take it to the town council for a presentation. I want to know what the budget is for the supposed landscape designer who might be working on this project after we bring him some of the thoughts that are presented today and in the past, and then tomorrow night.
Is that going to be a budget item in June 4th? Yeah. So I think the best place for that question will be on June 4th at that meeting, because there's going to be some other pieces that still haven't gone into that.
I mean, if you just want like a ballpark estimate, because we have to get proposals and everything has to be approved by town council, the contracts, but you're probably looking at about $10,000 a park
10,000.
per park.
Okay, so 10,000 for the Richardson Bay limit.
No, 10,000. We're just talking with the
10,000 for Cypress, 10,000 Bel Air, 10,000 for
Okay,
Belveron.
6 locations at the Richardson Bay Lineal Park, so 10,000.
No, we haven't retained a landscape designer for that yet, for any of these. We're not under contract, but calling around and getting estimates, ballpark estimates, what a landscape architect would charge us based on all of the information that they have already from the Parks Master Plan. We're looking at around $10,000 per site for the mini parks. Richardson Bay is its own beast. It's that would probably be more.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on your item? On the phone, David?
Yes, we do have one, Beth.
This is on discussion item 1. Beth, are you there?
Hi, sorry, I'm juggling watching my kids and trying to be a good citizen. Are we on mini parks?
No, not yet.
Okay, because my question was around Cypress Hollow. So is this still Lineal Park?
We're not to, we're at discussion item 1. And then we will go to Linear Park, which is item 3, and then we will do the mini parks on item 2.
Okay. I'll
So
try to get.
I'm gonna guess about 10 minutes, the most.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure. A little longer actually for your guys' presentation. The other just discussion item I had, David, in the Bel Air, or a question on the Bel Air Public Works project, will then Bel Air be under construction during the scope of work? Does that mean you're going to be trenching through the middle of the park?
That is correct. So
Okay.
construction should start in about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks from now. And it's about a month worth of work out there.
Okay. So hopefully after school's done.
Yes.
That's good. School's important. Okay. You guys have any discussion, questions on what David just want to discuss any of that, or good? Good to go? Good to go. All right. Onward. Item D3. Before D2. Mr. Moon,
Great.
Ms. Judge, you guys are up.
So, David, do you want to put the presentation up? I'm assuming the committee wants to hear the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we can go through it. Liz, do you want to go through the same format where you take the first few slides?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll try to be quick. Once we get the presentation up, there's actually a slide right at the front of it. We'll see if we can get it up.
There we go.
Okay, great. So it's the slide 4. So this, as you know, this is the subcommittee for proposals to enhance and improve Lineal Park, which is the area from from the part of Blackie's pasture, the parking lot of Blackie's pasture, and this little bit that extends out past Greenwood Beach Road, along the waterfront down to south of Knowles. So you're seeing this area highlighted here. Was it 2 years ago at this point, Chuck, embarked upon a project to contract a firm to conduct a master plan for all of Tiburon's parks, open space, and trails. The plan would guide the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Commission on making recommendations to town council on improvements, enhancements, and new amenities to add to the whole park system. So the project was to look at the whole so that we could think very thoughtfully and intentionally about where to put different pieces and updates and enhancements that we've been hearing for years and years that the public wanted. That process involved a bunch of community workshops, pop-ups in town to get community feedback, a community survey. And that gave us sort of a guideline, a set of sort of principles and broad goals for updates, enhancements, and new amenities to include in our park system. But it didn't give us the specifics. So Post broke into subcommittees to then dig deeper with the communities, dig deeper into community engagement, get more people's feedback, and get more detailed on what we could do in various areas of the park system. Here we are for Lineal Park, And Mike and I are the subcommittee. And our process in the subcommittee has been pretty robust and pretty rigorous in getting community feedback as well. And that's in addition to the whole 2 years of master plan feedback that this committee has been taking. We conducted a community meeting with the neighborhoods most adjacent to the sanitation ponds. So every community that sort of touches that area around the sanitation ponds, we talked to. We held a community meeting right here in Town Hall with. We held an a community meeting with leaders of every HOA along the whole lineal park. We shared a proposal with those HOA leaders and asked them to share it with their residents, and then asked them to bring residents' feedback back into that meeting. So we heard that feedback in that meeting. We had several meetings with parents for parks, that the group. We had meetings with homeowners up on Greenwood Beach. Of course, we've taken feedback in all the post meetings leading up to this, and we just had a community meeting for the hour preceding this post meeting tonight, where we got even more feedback. And all along the way, with all of that feedback, we iterated and revised this proposal that Mike is going to walk through right now. And Mike, I left out, once again, a major piece of feedback, which we think is really important, which is a student survey of all the middle school students at Del Mar Middle School, which is right next to the sanitation pond area. Mike will say more about that in his presentation.
Great. And before I get into the details, I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about our approach, which is we really wanted to take this opportunity to add the much needed amenities for Tiburon, but in a measured and balanced way. We heard from the surveys and from the community that, in fact, open space and natural beauty is a key part of our DNA and why people are drawn to this area. And so we really wanted to balance the interests of keeping things natural and open, but also being strategic in adding amenities as appropriate and as needed for our town. I would characterize our approach for this plan as really enhancement of Lineal Park as opposed to major transformation. So keep that in mind. The other thing that I think is important, while not directly relevant to this presentation and what we're talking about, which are amenities for Lineal Park, what came out loud and clear was that people had concerns about parking and overflow parking into their neighborhood streets. And so the concern from the community is that the more amenities, the more attractive you make Lineal Park means perhaps more people want to visit it, which means more people driving there and increasing the need for parking. So we understand that and we hear you. We're going to recommend that Town Council put that into consideration whenever we talk about adding things and improvements to Lineal Park. Because it's important. It's a real issue that I think our community wants to make sure we address. And the other issue is multi-use path safety. We're not specifically addressing it in this plan, but I know it's on the radar for Post and Town Council that we just need to figure out how to make our multi-use path much more safer than it is. The high-speed bikes, the e-bikes, can be quite dangerous, especially if you have young kids, dogs on leashes, just walking yourself. And so that is also another important consideration that we should talk about, but not necessarily the focus of this presentation. All right. And David, I don't know, is there a way to make it more slideshow-like instead of the pages? Yeah, thank you. All right, Greenwood Beach. This is the first area that we'd like to talk about. So this is the upland meadow, and this is the open preserve area. These are pictures of the areas today of what it looks like. Basically, there's really not a lot going on. It's just basically wild grass that turns brown during the summer. This kind of gravelly path that is a connection to the sewage pump here. This is an area where the beach restoration efforts are going to happen right around here. So all the concrete riffraff that's there is going to be removed, and some more natural sand is going to be there for the community, potentially get easier access to the water. The thought here is to really beautify this area with landscaping. These are inspirational images, not necessarily what will actually happen, but to give you an idea of the types of plants and flowers and other sorts of things that we're interested in kind of seeing that area be beautified by. So landscaping, low-lying native-based plants, bushes, grasses, consistent with this type of area. No trees that might block resident views. We need to maintain access to the sewage pump for the sanitary district, but I think we can make it a lot nicer than what it looks like today, maybe more like a nature path than anything else. The other area, which is over this side, the idea is to put educational exhibits, that really talk about conservation and maybe in partnership with the Audubon Society. It's a great opportunity to add some more seating. There is some seating there, but I think there could be more seating, especially when we make this more accessible with getting rid of that riffraff with sands, that I think it'll be a nice place to hang out and sit. No shade structures to block sort of the views around here, and maybe higher enforcement of unleashed dogs that tend to kind of go in the water over here, which could be not great for the bird wildlife that's in that area. Blackie's pasture, people know, here's a picture of Blackie's. There's a sort of a muddy river that goes alongside here, which is represented here. The primary use of this space today is it's basically an unofficial dog park. So a lot of dogs and owners, including myself, kind of go here, and it's a nice, great open space for people to have their dogs, especially larger dogs, to run off leash. So the part of the plan here is to really make it a better sort of dog park. So let's add some water stations for dogs and some seating for people that are, waiting for their dogs to get their exercise and play around. Preferably having it look nice and blending into the environment. Let's add a fence to keep the dogs contained and really not worry about the dogs running up and jumping on small children, which can be quite dangerous. Getting into the parking lot, obviously for reasons of safety, but also an issue is dogs, especially golden retrievers and labs, they tend to love water and they just run straight to the muddy river, which is it's not great for the owners who have to bathe them every time they go there. So having this place contained, I think, is a great use case for that space, primarily, which is already being used today. We did get some feedback from community members that there's a lot of foxtails in that area, and foxtails can be very dangerous for dogs. In fact, I had an issue myself with my dog where my dog sniffed one of the foxtails that went up his nostril and caused bleeding, and the vet he had to go through surgery, and the vet told us that if we didn't take care of it, the dog could have died. So it is very dangerous. I had no idea that this was something that was dangerous for dogs, and there are a lot of foxtails in that area. So I think we should improve maintenance to make sure that we clean up as much as we can. All right, the parking lot is next to Blackie's pasture. So right now, this section of the parking lot is gravel. We understand that if we pave that gravel area and paint parking spot lines, that we can increase capacity of parking by 25%. So we don't even have to expand the parking lot. All we need to do is pave it and line it, and we can increase capacity of parking. Longer term, if needed, I think we consider adding more parking spaces by expanding the lot alongside the unused space along Tiburon Boulevard. And as I mentioned before, I think it's really important that we mention to Town Council that any amenity improvement to Lineal Park, we should incorporate impacts to parking and address that as part of the plan. The picnic and playground area. So this is a very strategic part of Lineal Park. So this is this area right here. This is where the existing bathroom is. As you can see, it's closer to get to from the parking lot to get to this area. There's 3 existing picnic tables already. And if you can see right here, this area is protected by this berm for the views of the houses up here. And this is, I think this is Tiburon Boulevard right here. And so the idea of using this space is to really transform it to a nature-based playscape area. If we can have and incorporate into this area, you know, built-in slides into the hillside, logs and rocks, climbing nets, things really primarily geared towards younger children, but honestly applicable for all ages to enjoy. We don't want bright colored plastic that can ruin the aesthetics of this beautiful area, but I think we can be very tasteful in incorporating this nature-based playscape here. We want to incorporate accessibility and inclusivity into the design process. We also want to include a shaded structure over a large picnic table area. Right now, there's 3 separate picnic tables that are disjointed. If you had a kid birthday party or if you want to get some kind of group together, it's really not amenable for that because you'd have people sort of all separated. So the idea that we have is to have one big, large picnic table that's really a community table for all to use, or a modular system where you can put kind of tables together as needed. But having this entire area shaded, and we got some feedback actually from our meeting earlier today, perhaps even go further and make the structure such that if it rains that you can be in there to not get wet. And then the other idea is to have a bike path adjustment. So if you see here right now, the bike path would go straight right between where toddlers might be running around in the playground. So our idea is to move that bike path to actually go alongside this right here, which you can see already people are sort of using that path anyways, as you can see by the dirt sort of path being used that way. All right, the sanitation ponds. So the sanitation ponds is this area right here. This is what it looks like today. This section right here, it looks like that right there. And if you look up close, it's a barbed wire fence. It almost looks like a prison yard. I wanted to include this image. This is not what the sanitation ponds area looks like today, but this is what it did look like just not too long ago. You can see that there's a barbed wire fence that kind of goes around it with these ponds. And I know people have fond memories of, oh, some people say these were beautiful ponds for ducks, but in reality, they were sewage ponds that had pond scum and probably mosquito infested. It was not pretty. It looked like something out of X-Files, honestly. And I'm very happy they got rid of it. But I think this gives you perspective of what was there. And as we think about the amenities that we want to add to that area, let's have the perspective of what it was and what we're trying to envision. And this is our sort of inspiration board of what we think it can become. We think this is a perfect spot because of the flat nature of it, the location to the school, central to the park, to put in sand volleyball courts, which is an amenity that I think we have a lot of interest from the community. Basketball courts, but done in a way that's tasteful. I think people have an image that, oh, a basketball court's going to be so ugly, it's going to be concrete. But you can make it look nice with proper color tones and blend in a little bit more into the environment. A large grassy area that can be used for mini soccer or frankly like yard games like cornhole. And a covered sort of seating lounge area where people can hang out. And, I think it's just a really huge opportunity for this area, as there's just really not a space in the park to just hang out. And I think having a seated lounge area, shade structure would be wonderful. Maybe even include some infrared heating so that you can hang out there when it's a bit chilly. Have charging outlets for some of the kids or people who might want to charge their phones or they hang out there. One of the ideas that we got from a survey from the middle school students, which I'll go into shortly, is making this area turf-based instead of grass. That was a write-in comment that was just in the end of the survey. Are there any other ideas or comments you'd like to make? And we surprisingly got a lot of comments from kids saying, please make this area turf. So I had not thought about that, and that's something interesting that I think we should think about. Particularly because a large part of the year it is wet and rainy and the fields are unusable. So perhaps this is a quite good idea. The other thing that people talked about was a wall. So when it came out of the survey, I would not have thought of this, but wall ball is very popular with kids. It's kind of like dodgeball against a wall, but walls can also be used to throw a lacrosse ball against or, a tennis ball. There's a lot of uses for that. And if you remember here, this is what it looks like right now. A barbed wired fence looking into a very ugly sanitation area, which is right here. So this may be a good area to potentially put in that wall. And the idea of where the basketball court might go is right here, which is nestled within this berm. And there's a lot of trees right here, so it would block actually a lot of that court from any of the residents that might be up here. So this is a very strategic location that we think might be a good spot to put the basketball courts. And just so people know, this inspiration of a lot of these images comes from a community up in Tahoe called Martis Camp. There is an area that exactly has the seating lounge area with the basketball court next to it, sand volleyball, a big grassy area. So I don't want to, say that all of these thoughts are original. A lot of this was actually borrowed by some very careful planning that this wonderful community had done already. And it's a great spot in Martis Camp that a lot of people use. All right, we did a Del Mar middle school survey. So we did do a survey as part of the master plan for adults, but kids were not included. And as part of some of these post meetings and town council meetings, some of the kids have come in to express their views, but they're very anecdotal, just having a couple kids come in and talk about what they thought. So we thought it was a good idea to do a survey, and it turned out that we got 132 responses, almost 40% of the school, and it led to a statistically significant result with 95% confidence, which we were very happy about. And got a couple of interesting things that came out. The students on average would use the park about 2 days a week after school if we did some of these improvements at Lineal Park. And based on the responses, something that I had no idea how it might come out because I was just curious, and we added a question. If we did put in these amenities, we could potentially reduce the number of after-school car pickups by 50%, potentially helping reduce peak Tiburon traffic on Tiburon Boulevard. So that would be a wonderful added advantage in addition to having these amenities for our community. But if it was also done in such a way that we can reduce traffic during the afternoon, that's a huge, huge plus. On the survey results, a couple of interesting things that came out. Sand volleyball and basketball were some of the highest priorities when we asked them to force rank what amenities you'd like to see built. So as you see here, this is sand volleyball, this is basketball, this is the wall right here, which I wouldn't have thought would be so high, but apparently people are really into the wall. And then another interesting thing is that based on usage, the usage of these amenities were quite high. A lot of them were over 50%. Actually, all of them were pretty much over 50%. This is the wall, which was a little bit over 40%. But, overall and across the board, quite high usage percentages. We did have an opportunity for kids to write in if there were amenities that were not sort of included on that list that we were missing. And we just wanted to make sure that there wasn't something that was huge that was missing, and it didn't look like there was. A lot of people wrote in Snack Shack, like a place to buy candy and food after school. I don't think we're going to put a Snack Shack there. There were some responses that said bike park and maybe skate park, but the number of responses of that was quite small. All right, the south of the Knoll play area. So people know this is where the bathroom is. There's 2 playgrounds right here. It's right sort of nestled in behind this knoll. Here's some images. One thing to notice is that there's actually a lot of space right here. This is a picture of that space. Here's another angle of that space. And there's also space in between the 2 playgrounds as well. This is a great location because there's an existing bathroom, but it's also quite far from parking. So, the parking is all the way over here. And so we think that this is a nice opportunity to build some amenities potentially for middle school kids. And obstacle course and parkour stations, as well as strength and CrossFit stations, had a lot of interest in our survey. And I think this is great for kids, but honestly for all ages in our community. You might see some of these types of stations in some other communities across America, but they're great. They're outdoors. They can help with your strength and agility. Old people, young people, that we can all use them. And then we thought that longer term, we could refresh the existing playgrounds that are existing there today. All right, the knoll itself. This is that big hill, and I have some images here. When you get up on that hill, you see kind of this weird concrete graffiti structure. If you want to get up to the hill, going up this way, there's this little walkway that only goes up halfway, and then here all the way to the top is quite steep and slippery and dangerous. There's another way to get up through McKegney this way. And it's just kind of wild and unkept right now. And so the idea is to really take advantage of this space. Like if you go up there, I took some pictures. This is the view from the top of the knoll, which is just incredible. And here's an image of kind of an inspiration of what we could do is just have like a viewing platform with some Adirondack chairs. This is what the path looks like going up today. And so the thought was to just make some trail improvements, make it a little bit safer, maybe have some signage letting people know that there's something up there, add that viewing platform with seating. And there was some concerns from some residents that kids just want wild areas and don't necessarily want improvements. So we had included that as part of the survey. And it came back that 61% of the Del Mar kids actually support making some trail improvements and putting some seating up there as opposed to just keeping it wild. And although not an amenity recommendation, I just wanted to note that there was feedback from residents that we should explore removing the eucalyptus trees on the knoll for fire safety concerns. And so we're not necessarily leading this necessarily for this part of the plan, but something that I think we should look into and probably will look into. The south of the knoll area is this area right here. This is easy. We are going to do nothing. Just maintain it as natural and open space. So that concludes the presentation. So I don't know if you want to leave.
That's great, Mike.
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys, that's awesome stuff. And really appreciate it. Does anybody on the commission have any questions for Liz or Mike? If not, we can.
I've got a couple of things.
Sure, go for it, Mike.
One thing I've noticed is as we're taking advantage of that space, there's this problem. It doesn't happen often, but it seems kind of more and more dangerous to me of cars just easily being able to get onto the road there. Especially you see it now that there's construction area, trucks will just fly in. And I've seen like
Which road?
moms and children. So from the Black's Pasture parking lot to access that site and just in general, one day an older gentleman with a Porsche, I don't know what was going on, had actually driven all the way through and was on the path along the edge of the field. The town police had to come and get him off it, so joggers are going by, parents with strollers, senior citizens who are trying to navigate. But even when it's not that person, obviously, I don't know if there was a dementia thing going on, but there are people who are employees of very, as we're doing the construction now, I actually think it's a timely issue because you have more and more workers and people coming in and out. And they kind of don't care. I've seen people going 30, 40 miles an hour just on that little strip.
Really?
And I've tried to take photos. And so I'd recommend we do something actually sooner rather than later. This is super low cost to make it clear this, even if it's, what are the things that come out of the ground called that are all over Europe?
Like a bollard?
Yeah, a bollard. That's a higher tech way to do it. Simple way to do it is the way every fire road does it, right? Which is this is not you have two little posts. I could build it for $100. You have a chain of some kind or a gate. And if you want to drive your car in, you have to go open that, drive your car in, get out. It's a pain for the workers, but it also makes it clear, who is that road for? Is it a pedestrian walkway or is it a through fare for cars to be able to drive quickly through? I think it's the former. So I would prioritize that, especially the more work we're doing. It'd really be a shame if, as a result of trying to make all these improvements, we end up having pedestrian injuries. Or something more tragic. That'd be really bad. So anyway, have we considered this at all? And does someone want to take that on, or what's the best next step I would have, I guess, from the council or from David, if you have a proposed next step there?
It's something we're gonna have to look at as far as putting a hard closure for Richardson Bay because they do go in and out of there a lot. Definitely is something we can look at.
But again, I think that's the whole point is they're moving out, right? And so they can open it when they need to go in and out, but I guess. Oh, sorry. They can open it when they need to.
Hello? Oh, there we go. Thank you. So they can open it when they need to get in and out, but I guess the question would be what takes priority there? Safety of the pedestrians and everybody coming through, or the Richardson Bay folks getting in and out? Like what's our priority as a town as we manage that space?
We're gonna have to.
What do we care about, right?
No, of course, we care about safety.
If they're inconvenienced, I'm kind of like, how big of an inconvenience is it? If a park ranger wants to get on a fire road on Mount Tam or anywhere else,
You have to
right?
open the
You
gate.
better believe they're not gonna just leave the gate open. They're gonna go open it, put the car in, close it, and they're accessing those trails, every day in many cases.
This is something we can look at. Absolutely. Yeah. There's no here in
Okay.
any of these. Everything can be looked at.
Okay. Well, anyway, so that was a big one that I've just been noticing more. And then just a small one, the snack shack thing I hadn't thought of or heard of before. It's a crazy idea factory that just, is vending machine a solution? Ideally some healthy options kind of, like presumably we have some electricity already running there. It's free to the town, some vending machine company would gladly pay. Then you don't need to staff it. It's not elaborate. If what the kids are saying is like, I need a cold bottle of water and like, a granola bar.
Yeah.
There are low cost kind of, potentially even revenue generating, but at least break even ways of doing it.
Right. Yeah.
All right, that's all I have for now.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions for Liz or Mike? Nope. All right, I will open it up to any comments here in chambers on this discussion item. We will come back to this at a later point as an action item 2 for making a recommendation on that. So that's going to happen in about, I'm going to guess 20 minutes. Any questions or comments?
Yes, we do have one online. Linda?
Hi, my name is Linda. Thank you guys. It was great to be at the session prior to this meeting and just expressing my support for your plan for Lineal Park, specifically the basketball and volleyball courts that I think will get a lot of use, multi-generational, like especially during the day. I've seen like at Belvedere Park basketball court is used for Zumba, like elder aerobics, and just really as well as toddler music classes. So just like sort of spanning the generations, I think that Lineal Park area will get so much use and that it's a great plan. So thank you guys all so much for your hard work.
Good. Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, we do have Beth.
Hi, yes, thank you. That's the first time.
Uh-oh. Beth? If you can hear me, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I don't know.
All good.
Knows what happened there. Hi, I'm Beth. I live in Tiburon. I've been a active participant over the last 2 years. I was curious if the presentation was going to be available online. I do have some feedback right now, but it would be nice to read it and kind of familiarize myself with it before tomorrow's town hall. But overall, I really appreciate all the work, and I think it reflects a lot of, like you said, a lot of what the town wants and needs, and also respects the aesthetics and peacefulness of Tiburon. So, great job there. I did want to also just mention that there were over 20 public comments for beach sand volleyball and basketball court at Sanitation Ponds. That is on the town hall agenda for tomorrow. So I just want to let you know, because it wasn't sent directly to post, it was sent to the town council. So I just wanted to flag that there's a really big group of people that are really excited about that. And I was excited to see the Del Mar survey results reflect that as well. So that was more just flagging that. I know the post commissioner just mentioned the cars up and down there. I had brought something similar like that, but more for like bikes. I don't know who's really in charge of this, the police or post or, the Tiburon Boulevard project, but the bikers are just still going bonkers up and down that. So I don't know if this is the right presentation to plug that into, but it still feels very unsafe if you're trying to teach a little kid how to ride a bike or scooter, or even as a pedestrian, if you're in a conversation and a biker is just blowing past you and, you're take one step the wrong way and they could knock you out. So I do think people seem to really go fast right at that entry point that post commissioner was just mentioning too, where a gateway might help. But if there was some sort of way to slow down bikers who are speeding off the roads into the Blackie's pasture area, that would, I think, be great to also incorporate as you're looking at, car management. I know Snack Shack, you just said popped up in the survey. That was something that actually did come up through the Parents for Parks and Rec conversations with the community. The idea that people had proposed were like, what about a mobile food truck? Something, I don't know if you've ever been to Chrissy Field in the marina. They have like a Phil's truck with like croissants and coffees and water bottles on busy Saturday mornings, just for people who are there for sports or fun. So I just wanted to mention that. And then as for the dog park, I did want to give some feedback that dogs, I'm not like necessarily opposed to this idea. I just think you really need to think through gates and also tick management. Dogs often scare kids and parents. They're usually off leash since the leashing rules around Tiburon are pretty unclear. And even if there are clear rules, usually people don't follow them, and they tell parents, my dog's nice, but it's like this massive dog that's like 3 times size or 3 times bigger than a little kid. So I do think fences really help if you are actively going to pursue a dog park, to keep the dogs in the park and especially to help avoid that awkward confrontation between people who might not really want to have a dog run in and someone who's trying to throw a ball for their dog off leash. And then ticks are an issue. It's a pretty bad tick season right now, and dogs do bring ticks. So I think if you're putting a playground next to a dog park, that's just something you need to be aware of. And they might need to do some sort of tick spraying, or just keep the dog park a little bit of a separate space than the play area. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Beth. Any other comments online, David?
None.
Okay, I'll close public comment.
Anybody in this room?
I already did this room, but if there's somebody in this room who maybe didn't hear me, I'd love to have them come up. Go ahead, go for it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
My name is Darren Weingard. I may not count because I live in Belvedere, so
That's okay.
I
Well,
don't
thank
know.
you.
But I do go through your neighborhood and I'm on Tiburon Boulevard. So the dog park thing, and maybe I missed it because we didn't sort of clue into all this activity until very recently. One question I have, more of a question than a comment, would be the extent to which the commission considers the maintenance cost and budget outlay at the time it's doing the design planning. Because if one thing, and all the excitement to get a dog park built, and I'm very pro dog park in Blackie's, fenced, and the excitement to push it forward and get it approved, if a lot of attention is not being paid to how it's going to be maintained at the proper level, then it's a waste of money and a waste of time to have it. The example for me would be, I think it's Sycamore Park, but over in Mill Valley, where the grass is not maintained, foxtails are everywhere. Foxtails, I mean, not just a problem if you sniff, but the reality is that I won't go there that much. So what do? I go to the soccer field in Mill Valley. So my point is, consider please adequately staffing what the resources would be to maintain, if it's going to be grass lawn or if it's going to be something else, so that people actually will get use out of it. To me, it also seems like, maybe something contrary to the last caller, maybe the same, if you want to keep dogs out of all the other great development areas that you're doing in Lineal Park, then give them a dog park that's fenced, and some significant percentage of those dog owners are not going to be walking all the way in where they sort of hang out at the far end of the knoll now. The last point I wanted to make is, maybe this is just anecdotal, not worth very much, but I'm in my car a couple of times a week, sometimes more than once a day, taking my dogs out to the Mill Valley soccer field. If there's a dog park that's fenced, that's good, maintained, and it's friendly and all that stuff, I'm not going to be on the road from Belvedere, basically from Woodlands Market, several times a day up through the whole corridor. So like the student survey or whatever, the parking survey showed 50% reduction. I can't put a number on it, but there's an additional car with just 2 dogs in it and a person that I'm not making those trips. So I think it's beneficial for those reasons as well. So that's it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect comments. Appreciate you. Yeah. All right, come on forward. Sorry, I thought I got this.
First, I think you guys have done a great job of getting this plan to where it is. It's the right scale. It feels really like a place that we can move forward, that you guys can all move forward with, and us as neighbors. I'm a little bit of a broken record on this, but I do have to kind of come back and remind you of the question about where bikes go. Coming down Greenwood Beach Road, as well as the proposed bike lanes on Tiburon Boulevard for the part of Tiburon Boulevard that would end at Blackie's pasture. The bikes are really increasing. I'm a bike rider, so I'm not anti-bike, but I think it is a circulation question, and it affects the questions of where the little kids on bikes and it's and with increased use, I think it's just consideration. And finally, just a quick comment on your question about random cars driving on the bike path, what I call the bike path or the walking path. It is a problem. I think you could do some things with really simple signing. There used to be much better signing there. I mean, the other day I stopped a car who was driving down the road mainly because I wanted to tell him you'll get a ticket if somebody stops you. You know, he was out of town and he saw the view. And when I walked back, I went, yeah, he didn't see one sign that said do not enter for a car. The sanitary district employees are really careful on that road. I have to give them credit. They really watch and support them. I don't think they need a gate unless you really needed it for other cars. Signing, I think, could be really effective. And ever since Greenwood Beach Road has been paved, more people come through there too, cars, because it's not signed as well as it used to be. So these are just like simple things, the signing. Anyway, that's otherwise, great job. I think this is, it's exciting. It's great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for the feedback. Thanks for everybody here in chambers as well. Anyone else in chambers or anyone else online, David?
None.
All right, so we will close public comment. Any other discussion on this item, or do we want to keep moving forward to the action item? Or the other discussion items, and then we can get to the action items for more discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to make some comments and just thoughts on this.
Sure, go for
if I
it.
may.
Yeah.
Chair, thank you both for the work on this. This will be a very interesting time if the town moves forward on hiring a designer for this area down there. There's so many different pieces. Are the parts that the recommendations that you made, are you presenting those as recommendations then to council themselves, or because the main action item is obviously hiring a landscape designer, but will you be making those individual recommendations for each of the different sections?
Well, so yeah, I mean, we're gonna be presenting the whole the ideas for the entire plan.
Yeah.
Whether or not they like the ideas or want to accept them, that's up to them at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
that was the idea.
Got it. But tonight we'll be, and not to skip ahead, but we'll just be voting on them hiring the landscape designer, and the ideas are kind of, I mean, those.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But I mean, on that discussion item, I think we need to add teeth to our recommendation to say that you should hire a landscape designer that follows our recommendations that came from the subcommittee.
Yeah.
So if I think if there's any suggestions or changes that you would have on that piece, you can think about it now and then maybe add that in the just action item.
Yeah.
Or say, yeah, this is good. This is so.
Starting with Blackie's, I do like the idea of having a dog park there. I think, you know, at times we've had people make recommendations, maybe more on the side or over the course of our time here at Post, where like an area like the ponds would be a good spot for that. But I do like the idea of it being closer to the parking lot over there with a wood fence. Have you considered where at Blackie's that would be?
Yeah, I don't know, David, if you can
And
bring
how
that
much
back up.
space, like how much actual space would we dedicate?
Yeah.
I think one question that I have is, is there an appetite to turn that into, I'm just curious how large of a dog park you were actually thinking of fencing off in that
Mhm.
area.
I think it would be a pretty, a sizable portion of it because, especially for the large dogs that are out there, you need space for them to run. And a very popular activity is to throw a tennis ball using that chuck it plastic thing. So it's not that big, then you just can't get the dogs to do the exercise that they need.
Were you envisioning like the majority of Blackie's pasture being turned into off leash kind of area, including where the statue is, or just like a
So-
more sub
Oh,
piece of that?
so,
I guess I'm just trying to visualize
yeah.
where a dog, like a fenced in dog area.
Yeah, so I think we would not fence in this area because that could be potential future parking. Um, so there's a natural border here that makes sense. And then kind of alongside this parking lot also makes sense. We maybe not fence in this part of the park. So I think it would be generally kind of in this kind of area, like right around here.
And one thing we did hear in all the community engagement was that um actually a lot of the neighbors who see the activity there every day say that's basically a dog park right now. So I mean that's the main use for that area.
Would you envision the statue being included in the dog park? I'm just assuming that you're creating something separate.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the statue's kind of like right around here-ish. I think you would have the statue outside of the dog park so that people
Okay.
kids want to climb on or whatever, don't
Yeah.
have to go into the dog park. That's probably the best idea. Um, I don't know if the statue can actually be moved if there's a better spot for it, but yeah, I don't think we want to move, put it inside the dog park.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess my thought would be, there are classes out there all the time and everything like that. And if we I would be concerned turning the whole thing into one huge dog park
Yeah.
and like just give it to the dogs. Like, we want to keep that section where the classes and other folks go and little kids love to climb on the statue and everything like that. So my thought would be, and you can have a pretty large size dog park down there if we can get the town on board with fencing that area in.
Yeah.
And it also reflects the current usage anyway. I think that would just be my concern, is making sure the statue stays out of that area.
Yeah, I think that was the idea. And then keep in mind, we're going to really activate and open this space up here for kids. And you said classes. So there's going to be a lot more sort of usable, sort of activated space in this area over here too.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Greenwood Beach project. I also think, I'm hopeful about that project whenever that finally gets underway. That will also potentially increase usage of
Yeah.
that little area down there. Okay, that's on the Blackies part. There's so much to cover. On the sanitation ponds area, very encouraged to see. First off, the back wall was not really something I had been thinking about, but give it to the kids. Actually, pretty great idea, and probably something that a lot of people would end up utilizing more than you'd think. So I do love that idea of also just at least partially blocking part of the view, looking towards the buildings that are down there.
Mhm.
I think that's a great idea, and a basketball court. Even if it's a half court or whatever we might be able to get down there, I think is something along with a volleyball court that we've heard time and time again here, that folks want access to. I am not as encouraged to hear that there was not a lot of popularity on the survey with respect to any level of, either a bike, like places for bikes, scooters, or a skate. And I don't think we need a full skate park down there, although I've talked many times about that over the course of this commission. That's my personal thing. I think that's outside of the lines with what the local neighborhood associations might want. And then we did have a conversation, which we can talk about, with Amy Lapp and her team, who've been developing skate parks both in Tahoe City, and they just reopened the skate park in Corte Madera. We talked a little bit about it being importance of it being in the public view. And so I do think that as we look at that area, there's a lot of space. One sand volleyball court versus two might be something to consider. And we're going to end up having a lot of, there's going to be a lot of, I do think that, I personally do think that there is a desire to have something that would be allowed bikes, scooters, skateboards, things to be ridden. Like when you go to the Belvedere Park, technically you're not supposed to ride any scooters or bikes on the basketball court over there, but obviously all the kids actually do that actively. And I do think a safer place for kids to be activated. There's the park near Moscone in the marina in San Francisco that has a very small pump track that goes on the exterior of the children's park. I never in a million years would have anticipated the thousands of times I walked back by that park that they would be able to fit in a little pump track. And just my continued feedback is I do think there's a hunger for that kind of activity to be included in this plan. We've seen it naturally off of the old rail trail. I mean, there's a bunch of little drops where kids have been biking for some time. Otherwise, everything else, loved all the suggestions. One other thing that came out of our parks design town hall that we had last week was the concept of like fitness park design built in and along these parks. Had not really been something I had looked at or considered, but we take our kids to these parks, we're kind of just sitting there on the bench or doing whatever. And one of the interesting designs, Dr. Quinn, I think was the name of it, or the name of the lady who presented, was talking about the importance of just multi-generational use for these parks areas and having, some sort of fitness equipment out there alongside a nature-based play, area like kind of design. So I just think for the south of the Knoll Park area, that is something that could be worked in as well, or considered as this plan moves forward. So thank you all for the work on this. Just want to throw out a couple thoughts.
Thank you. I can respond to a couple of your questions. Yeah. So, well, in terms of the fitness, we actually had that in the south of the Knoll area as the idea, parkour obstacle course and strength and fitness. So that ties into that. The sand volleyball. So my understanding is, talking to the advocates of sand volleyball, is that if you actually have two sand volleyball, it activates revenue generating potential that could potentially give a payback to the town on the cost of building it. And that when you have two, it actually allows groups that offer lessons and clinics to actually then activate that space. And so you can actually generate revenue from those groups and kids paying for lessons. When you have one, there's not enough scale for the instructor to make the economics make sense. So there are parks in Marin that have two sand volleyball courts, and we've seen numbers of how much it generates. And it's actually could be pretty interesting in that you can get a payback on that investment for the town if we had two versus one. So that was the idea for that. And then the skate park, I hear you, but I think when you look at the survey results that from the adult side, it did not pop up as high priority. And then you look at this, even the Del Mar survey, it did not pop up as a high priority. And then I think generally speaking, people just don't want to see like a skate park in Lineal Park. I think some of the comments we've got that they do appreciate sort of the things that we have included, but I think that if we sort of incorporated a skate park sort of design into it, I feel like we would have gotten a lot more opposition from some of the neighborhood associations.
I think there's a distinction between an actual skate park and setting up some level of features like a small pump track or something that you might have down there. And I didn't see how the survey looked. I'm not sure how it was all phrased. But I don't feel like I'm alone when I say that. I think it would be a desire to see some more of those features incorporated down in that area.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah, I think if we did
I'll
have some
continue to engage
opportunity
on that
for,
piece.
yeah, so if we had an opportunity to do something about pump track maybe, which is more nature-based in a way, I think this area already, people kind of have made it into a pump track, kind of alongside here too. And this is sort of unutilized space in a way, so this is now a poppy field. But yeah, so I think the opportunity would maybe like kind of around here. And if it was kind of more nature-based, dirt sort of trails with more like mounds kind of stuff, I think that could be more of a possibility.
I will plus one. I think there would be demand for that. And I think there's a lot of kids who bike, obviously. So
Yeah, there have been there's the natural one. I think it's still there. I don't think they got rid of it when they put the field in, but there's one on looking at this, like the right side of where there's just like that small little path that some people hike through. We bike through it all the time. And then obviously those drops. I do think that area would be primed. I mean, half of the year it's all brown and kind of looks like dirt out there anyway.
Which area is this?
This is where you were just
right here.
pointing
Okay,
at,
yeah,
in
yeah,
that area.
yeah.
I do think there's some opportunities
Yeah.
for a pump track in there. It wouldn't be something major.
Yeah.
We're not talking about like a BMX,
Yeah.
like kind of video game style thing,
Right.
but just something that the kids who are learning to ride their bikes off the trail, of which we have many in Tiburon, we have a lot of junior mountain bikers here. I do think that that's an important place for them to get confidence and just learn to ride.
Yeah. Well, so if I could ask you, one of the things we've done in Lineal Park Subcommittee is we've had what I would call amenity advocates. So for basketball, for sand volleyball, for the fitness stations, we have like a community member that's a strong advocate, like, and knows a lot about it, so that it's, we're thinking about things that are mindful of the people that actually use it. If you're interested, I wouldn't mind having you as an advocate for potentially the idea of, or if you know someone in the community that might be interested, that could be a liaison to the bike pump track community to learn more about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And no, absolutely.
Okay.
This is years ago, but there was a group of middle schoolers who were really advocating for some features.
Yeah.
I'll have to figure out where they might be. Apparently they graduated from the middle school, because it doesn't sound like those desires of which we took seriously were reflected in the survey,
Yeah.
but hopefully they're still around.
They're in college now.
Probably in high school.
Any other, I do have a couple just comments based on, actually, I think the feedback from the community was great, is on adding language that's both for cars and coming through on that road. There's also a chain link fence, I think, across, or there sometimes is, that goes to the pump station over in front of the beach. I think there's maybe some signage there, because people also drive in that area too. That's over off of Greenwood on that beach, the beach area there. So there may be just opportunities for, in terms of language, to town council to say that it would be access and minimizing those pieces. And then, as you guys know, the whole language about bicycle traffic and how it comes through that section, as well as how it would exit either onto Tiburon Boulevard. So there'll probably be a question tomorrow's meeting, maybe, but also just to be thinking about that. If not kid traffic, but adult traffic on a bicycle, how that would exit onto Tiburon Boulevard, or how it would enter from Tiburon Boulevard onto the old rail trail, assuming that there won't be a bike lane on Tiburon Boulevard where it's 2 lanes, because there just isn't room. I mean, you could ride there as a cyclist for sure, if you'd like to ride that narrow road. And I've ridden plenty of narrow roads at 40 miles an hour is not really my ideal where I'd want to be hanging out. I'll go at 10 and take my time. So something about that is that it probably would come up, or potentially, and I think we've heard it enough during this meeting, with more kids and activation of that, of how what the ideal routing, or in the recommendation we make in our action item is like, what recommendation should we be working with a designer on bicycle traffic through? And the consultants try to do that, but it was like, no, we're not aiming traffic through South of Knoll was not going to be the answer, right? And that was what their solution was to jam traffic through that way and to go on that lower road. So if people are going to be on the upper road past McKegney Green to the east, what happens at that turn point? And with more traffic coming, kids and other people, and activation of the pond areas, how does that all work? So you guys are going to want to probably be ready to think about that, particularly since it's kind of top of mind for a lot of folks right now. So I would just, I don't know if there's other people you've talked to on that. And then I think that was the only comment I had on the whole other areas. I think it was great. So, and yeah, there's a need for a dog park as having 2 dogs, and also having to the one person's comments about I mean, we're a pretty dog-friendly place, but if you, like, I just got a rescue and I don't know what she'll do. I need a fenced-in area. I can't take her off leash. I'll go over to Mill Valley to the dog park that has, there's no fence over there. The only thing that's there is the bay on one side, but it's totally unmaintained too, totally unmaintained. But I think it's by design a little bit. But I don't want to drive all the way over Mill Valley to do that. But I can't take her to Blackie's now because I have no idea what she'll do. I don't know if she'll run to Tiburon Boulevard or anything. Her recall just isn't there. So and she's a year and a half. So I appreciate that. Yep.
One last question, maybe it's for David, or maybe this came up during your engagement. I am curious as to why the dirt part of the parking lot that ever had been considered, or if there are other reasons why that has not been paved over the years. You know, I know like the fire department uses that at times and all kinds of stuff that goes on out there. I'm looking at Google Maps. There's a bunch of those dumpsters that were out there for a while. Is there any reasoning why that part had never been paved? Or did you hear any concerns to the subcommittee?
Oh, we used to use that area as a staging for construction projects, town construction projects. So we never really needed to pave it because it would get all destroyed from all the equipment through there. And we never saw the need because we didn't need the additional parking spaces all the time. You know, people would park out there. So the main thing, chipper day, construction, staging areas, and then just the need.
So
wasn't there.
So money then is the only other reason, right? Because it's going to cost money to pave it and maintain it.
That will cost, at least $500,000 minimum.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on that, this discussion item? Nope.
Thanks for all the work.
Yeah, you guys, great stuff. Really, I mean, it's really important with all the public outreach. So thank you, and appreciate your patience and tenacity and endurance. Discussion item 2 now, and then we'll go to 4 after that. So discussion item 2 is on the mini parks. There's a presentation. Can I borrow your pointer? Dang. Okay, I might mess up the pointing, so you have to help me. We're losing a lot of people. Is it something I said?
I don't care about the mini parks.
I don't care about the mini park. All right, so this is Commissioner Burr and I are on the mini parks. This part of this kind of update to you all is just to be on the survey that we launched. Yes, right button. So the goal for the mini park survey is to provide one of many data elements to share with a landscape planner, which we hear is going to be potentially in the budget, on community-specific priorities for these neighborhood parks. So that's the primary reason. We ran a survey from April 1st to April 30th using SurveyMonkey, which is the town actually has a license. So if you ever need a survey device, they have a commercial license. So, and actually that survey is now the most used survey that they have, which is awesome. We made it electronically available, and we also sent it as a mailer to homes 500 feet or closer to each park. Residents were encouraged to choose and comment only on one park. And the reason we did that, and it was a sore subject, and it's unfortunate that that person who brought up the sore subject has just left the room, but it's because we didn't want people to overwhelm the survey. Right? It wasn't fair to the neighbors to do like, okay, here's somebody who just jams a lot of questions in on one thing. It just didn't seem fair. So that's why we just said, hey, prioritize one park. These are also neighborhood parks. They're mini parks. One is 0.5 acres, one is 0.7 acres, right? These are like small places. Oh, thanks, David. So that's why we asked people just to if in using, hopefully in the best case, just to answer it once. So we did record people's addresses based on that. So the only information we did track is their premise address, and that's it. We don't know names, and we don't know anything else on that front, because we wanted, again, people to be honest and not feel, just wanted them to be able to be open and honest with us. The questions the majority are from the park's master plan. Some people had commented like, oh, these questions seem like they're from a certain group that was advocating a certain point. Well, that's not the case. These actually were straight from the parks plan. There's a couple that we added in, but it was just really just to see like, hey, is there any other interest on this piece? And then finally, it was ranked on a scale of 1 to 5. So 1 was unnecessary, 2 was low priority, 3 was neutral. There wasn't a strong opinion either way. 4 was beneficial, and 5 was essential. So who responded? We got 315 total responses. I don't have the statistical significance like yours, Mike, but I'm just going to say that was good. And we'll get to that point, hopefully, if we use this survey for the designers. So, but 315 responses was pretty great. Unfortunately, however, 44 of those responses, 40 of them, people just logged in and put their address in, but then didn't give us any data. And then 4 of them, they didn't give us their address, like nothing. There was like TB. So I just didn't feel it was appropriate to use those ones. So I took those 44 out. So as a result, we had 271 total responses. 50 were for Cypress Hollow, which is a 0.5 acre mini park. 126 were for Bel Air mini park, and then 95 were for Belveron, and then Belveron is 2.1 acres. So I think this is important for everybody, for you all to know, and you guys know this, but also people in the community. The goals here is that we know these are neighborhood parks, and so the questions were on neighborhood amenities. These are not destination amenities. We're not changing what's already there. The goal here is to keep and enhance what we already have. So the results. So this is for Cypress Hollow, and this is basically me with a pivot table, looking at the average for each one of those pieces that we listed. So and ranking them from highest to lowest. So on the top part was Cypress, they wanted the swing set. There's a swing set there in Cypress Hollow Park, if you go over to it, that's toddler only. It used to be like a kid and a toddler, or an adult, or anybody could sit in it. It changed to just a toddler only. One of them was because reasons of space. But a lot of people were like, hey, I'd love to have a swing set that I can go to. There is surprisingly and oddly, we don't have a lot of swings in this town. And as we heard from the playground symposium that Tim and I hosted last Monday, was that one of the things that people like as human beings is they like to swing. It's a pleasurable thing to do. And we should allow people to do that. And Cypress Hollow does not have that. So there was a really desire to do that. The second one was improved maintenance. And you'll see this thread amongst other things. About maintenance being very high on all the other mini parks as well. An irrigation system, and then slides on the hill. So this is basically this list of items. We will take this and then share it with the planner to say, here's what the community members suggested. How does this help with any other planning? And then we'll have another moment of feedback from the community for each one of these different mini parks. But this is really there to help guide the designer on what things were their priorities. The red line is kind of like at 3. Now, that's me specifically saying at 3. Now, is there some that were like 3.02 or 3. I think in this case it is 3, 3.2. You know, what is it? I will say there is a lot of, for those in the statistics world, a lot of bimodal distribution. There were a lot of 1s and a lot of 5s. So, which means that the community is a little split on things. It could also be split on people who have been long-term community members and people who have been short-term, people who have kids and people who are empty nesters. There's a high correlation. I didn't run that regression. I do have some free time, but I didn't go that free time. But there is that, and you guys probably saw that in your discussions as well within the community. So I think what's important on this is sharing this information with the community and also helping build the connections between people to come to a middle that's demonstrating that we're not trying to change everything here, but we're trying to just make some slight enhancements for in this case, Cypress Hollow was built in the 1990s, and it had a playground structure that was updated in 2007, I believe, or 8. And it's just trying to update those pieces. And we heard from the call from Ian earlier in the call is like the grass that's there, there's under some cypress trees that are very mature. There's roots there. There needs to be some thoughtful, like, how do we apply grass here? And in this case, we did have a question on artificial turf. Nobody wanted artificial turf grass. Now, it'll be interesting from the younger kids were like, oh, I don't care if it's artificial turf. And there's a lot of dogs that run on this section but maybe when we give the cost perspective to say like, well, if we do turf, it's more expensive, but the maintenance is there and you could run your dog when it's pouring out in February versus the town's going to come and close it. And if you're out there during February, enforcement's always an issue, but that's what we do at McKegney. And that's why the grass there gets destroyed, is because people run their dogs when it's pouring rain out, which, I mean, I get. So this is Cypress Hollow and the survey results. So, and just to ask, because Ian mentioned it today, we just added the bathroom one there because there are some members in the community that want a bathroom because it is a little kid playground. But overwhelmingly, people were like, no, please don't put the bathroom in. We got it. But as members of the public, that is our goal, is to ask that question. This is a public park that everybody in the town of Tiburon gets to use. It is not a private park. I won't be grouchy pants anymore. So, but that's that one. So on Bel Air, so we kept it really simple here. These again were suggestions from the town plan. And what was interesting is that all the ones that were really high up there are literally features that they already have. Some community members have put in benches. They have put in a wood table and some chairs. In fact, I was there on Sunday riding my bike through just to see what was going on. And there was a couple there with 2 dogs playing fetch with their dog, sitting there at the table. So pretty interesting to see all those different results. I think there wasn't any kind of surprises on this. Again, maintenance was number 1 from their perspective. A trash can and some dog poop bags were added, but they were very up on that. The other thing is that there's no signage there at that park. In fact, there's no signage at this park about any rules, like when is it open, when does it close. Same thing at Belveron Park, and there's one very small beat-up sign at Cypress Hollow. So I think David mentioned this, that there's going to be a budget item coming forward, and that we as a commission will be suggesting some language, and the town council will go like, oh, did you run that through post? And that would then, so us being proactive on that would be great. There is no drinking fountain there, so that would be the only added amenity, as well as the DG path. But the rest of the pieces were kind of like low 3s up to the 5. Again, very bimodal distribution for this park as well. Incredibly bimodal of 1s and 5s. So I think really in sharing this information with a planner, it's like, here's some items that we think were important. We should have more meetings and outreach with the Bel Air community, but really it's starting with some easy ones in which actually town council members have stated simply, why is adding 2 to 3 benches that controversial, particularly when there's already 2 to 3 benches there. Belveron, these were interesting. To me, the most interesting one was that actually we adding a universal design playground structure just as a question, because there's space and actually people wanted something there, something small. This is also some opportunities to put either bicycle training. There's a paved area. There is a paved flat area in the front part of this park. It's also 2.1 acres. It's pretty big. And in the back is kind of an overwooded area that's that could be for doing some kind of jumps and other, like a pump track area as well. But I'll go through some of the top winners here. Again, improved maintenance was number 1. Number 2 was improving the landscaping for the front and back sections. The third one is, you're probably going like, what the heck is organic trees, Commissioner Hornbrook? And I will say that Commissioner Hornbrook did not proofread his survey. And I meant non-native flammable trees, and not organic, because pretty much every tree is organic. So that was my error. Somebody made that comment on it. They're like organic ? So I appreciate that response. But there is a fair amount of invasive species in the back part of this section that the town should deal with in maintenance. And actually, while I was there on Monday, I guess that was yesterday, somebody from the parks team was over there. Not the parks guy, more of the maintenance person. He's probably, I guess you guys split him between parks and doing like more heavy mowing. And he was like taking out doing the back section out there. So I met him. But I thought the most interesting thing on there was the universal design playground. So there is some interest in adding other features out there. So I thought that was kind of interesting on that. And again, this is a park that's bordered by a lot of houses, like all the other mini parks as well. But again, under the red line were things that like just didn't have acceptance, which was one of these, a hammock, which Commissioner Bird told me, though, if you go out to the Great Highway in San Francisco, has hammocks every what, 50 feet or something?
No, it's not that many.
Not many, but it's still pretty cool. So they turned a 4-lane freeway into a park. I love that. So, and then again, signage and knowing what's going on. But I did like the link training of or putting a small kids bicycle section in the back section. So there could be another potential area of not just in the area that you and Commissioner Burr were just reviewing, but also in there. So in summary, maintenance and signage, huge priority. All of them want that. Cypress Hollow, the update for existing features. So everybody was like, yes, just update the park to where it needs to be updated. And one thing that would probably also, which came from our meeting, our playground meeting that we had last week, is adding right there at the playground structure. And it's also the same kind of material at the South of Knoll playground, is that wood bark. That's not accessible to kids or anybody who is on a wheelchair or a walker or anything. They just can't move through that stuff. So a lot of it takes more, the maintenance team has to deal with it, but it's using a rubberized surface that's then sealed. And that just makes it a more inclusive play structure. So it's something to think about for all the play structures that we do going forward, and thinking about that. And the town of Novato's done a great job with their park at Pioneer Park and then at Hoog Park of having an integration of that rubber sealed piece, as well as some integrated, all accessible play structures. Bel Air, again, the community added amenities, so we should just make that official within a design plan. And then for Belveron, it's clean up the fire risk plans and improve the entrance, and then add some screening off of Tip Boulevard. And yes, we heard very loud and clear, don't add bathrooms at Cypress Hollow, and then no hammocks in Bel Air and Belveron. Is that? Oh yeah, and then just as an update for our subcommittee, we also had a park symposium. So some designers came, a person who's got her PhD in play for children spoke to us. 2 manufacturing reps, a designer who looks at all-inclusive playground structures called Magical Bridge down in Palo Alto, and she's done some other ones. And then we had 2 local folks. So we had Brian Kesmer from the town of Belvedere. So when they redid their play structure, which cost them around, for those scoring at home, around $600,000, $700,000, I think our crack team at the ARC, I think, published that one, right? 5? 4. Oh, 430. Thanks, Francisco. So for about $430K for that structure. So if you get a chance to go take a look at that one has a mix of both sealed rubber as well as the wood chips. And then we also had Amy Lapp there to talk about how quickly they were able to do the skate park at Corte Madero, which was she said about 9 months from start to finish, which is great. It was also an existing structure, so all it was updating an existing area. And the ARC did provide a great summary in today's paper. And so just to help give that context for why we did that playground, is all these parks and these playgrounds that we have are all kind of coming up due to be redone. So about 15 to 20 years is kind of, or 10 to 20 is what we said in a post meeting about 2 years ago. This is what this language is taken directly from that agenda item. And so it's really trying to figure out how to refurbish those. And I think that it's very important for us to have an eye toward accessibility as much as we possibly can and I think this is of all ages, not just kids that have accessibility challenges, but of just everybody. As I think it's important as everybody ages in place or communities stay together. For a town like Tiburon, I think it's important to do that. I'll end there because the only other slide I have is on Zielinski Park, so I can stop here. Any questions on commissioners? Does anybody in the audience have any questions? No. Is anybody here? Come on. Yes. Do you want to come up forward? So people on the phone, is there anybody on the phone? David, we needed you to come up to the mic. I'm sorry.
Tracy Siegel, I live in Del Mar.
Hello, Tracy.
Hello. My question was, one of the playgrounds brought in their own amenities? Was it Bel Air Playground where they brought in benches and a table?
Yes, Bel Air Playground. Yeah, Bel Air Mini Park. Yeah.
And just the residents got together and decided to.
Somebody just put it in the backyard and put it because they're all their backyards back up into it.
Oh, okay, okay. So it's not something where if people wanted more benches at south of Derry Knoll, people couldn't cart in their own benches.
Well, sometimes people do that, right? I mean, I would
I don't
say
know.
that
I mean,
it was done there and nobody said no
in Bel Air Park or in Derry Knoll?
in Bel Air.
Okay, okay. All right, just curious.
Right. So our position of the comment is that if the residents just bring in their benches, why not have the town support that, make sure that it meets all the needs of everybody and just put them in the park to make it official.
That would be ideal. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hand raised.
Nope, a hand is raised. Yes.
All right, Jenna.
Hi, this is Jenna. I'm a Tiburon resident and parent, and I just want to thank you for conducting this survey. It's really interesting to see all the results. And in terms of the Bel Air Park, just to clarify, the outdoor furniture that's in the park, it's not like nice furniture. It's just like used crummy stuff that people had in their backyard that they just kind of put in the park. That's my impression of it. Like some of it you're worried you're going to get a splinter if you sit on it. So I think it would be great if the town could have some officially sanctioned, like nice seating equipment in that space. But anyhow, thanks for your work on this. It's cool to see people's responses. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.
I want to make sure any other questions on that?
No.
All right. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, if I may add just a couple pieces, just a reminder to folks that at each of these mini parks, we had at least one community meeting kind of / tour, particularly at Belveron. And at each of those, it was suggested that we do a survey to give everybody an opportunity to comment who maybe weren't able to make it out there. The one thing that I was a little surprised by each of these was when we were at Cypress Hollow, it did seem like a really good idea to either fence in the dogs or fence in the kids. One or the other, whatever, however you want to describe it, but some barrier separating it. So I'm not sure if our wording was, off or whatever, but that came in under the vaunted 3 rating. So I don't know, Mr. Chair, if you had any thoughts or comments on that, but it did feel like for Cypress Hollow, there was a desire, at least for the many folks who came out when we did a tour that morning. It did seem like it was a good idea to kind of separate that out. And then it was kind of cool to hear stories and just some background on the resodding of the grass out there, whatever it might end up looking like. They were telling stories. I think that would really increase the usage of that park for that neighborhood. It sounds like they used to, spend much more time out there. Now it's all just mostly dirt, but when it was actually utilized as grass. But any thoughts on the fence conversation?
No, I don't. And there's one thing in terms of putting together this survey, and I wish I had asked this question, was a little bit more demographic information about them.
Yeah.
I did with a little extra time figure out kind of addresses and how long people had lived at certain residences, but that was a really heavy lift, and I didn't want to do that for all 271 responses. But I wish I had asked, how long have you lived in the neighborhood? And how old are your children? I kind of just wish I had asked that question. And in hindsight, that was something that I missed. Or Commissioner Byrd didn't see it in my draft.
But very encouraged by the participation in this. I mean, particularly Bel Air, those that were closest and a lot of the folks in the neighborhood for each one of these parks engaged in some capacity. So it was great to see that. And encouraging to see the continued engagement from community members on the mini parks. So thanks to
Yeah,
all who participated.
I think if on the fence, again, I think the survey is guidance. It's not like, oh, we will do this. If it's below the 3, we don't do it. I think it's just like, yes, we need to add a fenced in area that shares an area with dogs. You need to separate the kids and the dogs. I mean, you see that in every other playground across the country. And when there's no dogs, then there's no fence, generally speaking. But I mean, in all the other parks areas that I've looked at, and including the playground in Belvedere, is fenced in. And it's there to do two things. It's there to keep the kids in, and it's there to keep the dogs and from running in and doing whatever dogs do. So, which we all know what they do. They just don't think enough. Those dogs. Any other questions? Nope. Okay.
Jenna raised her hand again. I don't know.
Jenna, did you raise your hand again?
Hi, I didn't use my 3 minutes in my prior comments, so I just wanted to comment on the fence question. I live near Cypress Hollow Park and use that park a lot. And anecdotally, I can just say that every parent I know would like to have a fence separating the dogs and kids. And I think it'd be fine if it was around the playground. There's just a lot of dogs that wander into the park, the playground area. And I just think it would create a more, just peaceful environment for both the dog users and the kids and families. And also it is a accessibility and inclusivity feature. Usually universal playgrounds have fences around them for safety reasons. So anyhow, I'm a big proponent of having a fenced in playground. So, and it just barely didn't make that red line cut. It's 2.9, so pretty close. Okay.
Agreed.
That's all.
Agreed. I would blame the survey monkey named Commissioner Hornbrook for not putting, I should have put in the demographic question, and I wish I had done that because it would have helped parse that out. All right. If there's no other questions, why don't we move on to a discussion item 4, pickleball court subcommittee. Do you want to do that, Mike?
Sure. I mean, there's not much of an update. We continue to have talks with the TPC to potentially do a joint venture with them to cover some of their existing courts, where we'd have exclusive usage to a certain number of courts. It could be a real win-win for the community and for the TPC if we can make this work, but we're continuing to have discussions to see if we can make it work. The other option is to potentially cover some courts at Tether Park, but I don't think that's a preferred route. We'd like to see if the TPC option can work before looking into that in more seriousness.
Yeah, and part of on the TPC is just to increase the number of courts because well, 2 items. Tether Park is, from a cost perspective, would be pretty high. And then also more court potential adds to really what the goals are with a pickleball, which is a community of having many courts. 8, is 8 the magic number?
8's a good number, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's just not in, okay, 8. So, and then looking at other potential areas, again, the challenges that we have in town is either they're going to be developed for housing or they're on that carve out. So anything would have to be temporary and then would have to be explained like why we're taking away housing options if it's something permanent. So it's like good money after bad. So not bad that it pickleball, but bad that it would have to be replaced at a certain time. So it wouldn't be a good investment. Any questions from us on that? And then I'll open up to comments from anybody from town. Nope. Okay. Anybody have comments on pickleball? Yes, sir.
Yes. My name is Rick and I live in Paradise Cay, so I guess not officially in Tiburon, but very close. And yeah, I would support more investigation into getting pickleball courts here in Tiburon.
Great. Thank you. No, appreciate you being here. Sphere of influence, I think, is what Paradise Cay is referred to. A sphere of influence on Tiburon.
Commitment. He waited 2 hours to make that comment.
We appreciate you being here. Anybody online? Okay. Any other discussion on that? Okay, we'll move forward. Public swimming pool.
Or do you want to do paddleboard first?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I got so excited.
You got so excited about the pool.
I got so excited about the pool. Paddleboard, sup, kayak launch, update. Mike?
I don't know if you got anything or you want me to kick
Feel
it
free-
off.
Feel free to go.
Okay, so I spent some time chatting with David and Greg Chanis, the town manager, about our various options. I think, David, you caught up with Greg again, like maybe we should just go through what the options are and some of the pros and cons with each of them. You know, the one that we were all hoping would be the easiest is by you know, on Main Street near Corinthian Yacht Club. So that's one option. There's also this idea of on what many people don't realize is a bridge, but is actually a bridge connecting Main Street to Tiburon, like behind Woodlands Market. There's also this idea, I'm curious what happened with China Cabin. There was some talk of that. That one is still good. Okay, so I want to talk about that one. And then there's obviously like up higher on Richardson Bay at San Rafael Avenue, but that's got limited seasonality kind of issues. So I don't know, actually, I think, David, if you want to share any of the latest information on the pros and cons and what you think, because it's shifted when you sit down and actually go through and we looked at the property maps, like the how easy different sites might be and how possible or impossible some are, might be counterintuitive. So, yeah.
Yeah, so out of the sites, the first one that we all thought we were going to move forward with years back over there off of Shoreline Park, that is off the table now just because of the dedication from Point Tiburon and what can and cannot go there. So no launching off of Shoreline Park or anywhere there near Elephant Rock. The second,
And just to be clear, the primary reason is neighborhood opposition.
no, this is the that Shoreline Park was deeded to the town.
Okay.
And with that deed comes a restriction that no structures
So
can
an
be built
actual
on.
legal
Legal.
covenant, restrictive covenant, yeah.
Correct. The second that was preferred site was that we liked before we looked into Main Street was well, the Corinthian Yacht Club area, but was just a Main Street bridge. Town staff recently has engaged with Belvedere on that, and Belvedere is not interested in moving forward at this point, discussing using an area off of the Main Street Bridge as a launch site, at least for now. They're not interested in that. The third site, which is the on Main Street behind 41, we have to work with the Corinthian Yacht Club. It is a very good location, calm bay. There's parking nearby there where folks can park. If we can negotiate something with the yacht club itself, where that the anchor statue, maybe have a drop-off pickup there or a parking spot, a short limit where folks can drop off their kayaks or their paddle boards and then go park out there in the parking lot by the movie theater. That is a very good location, but one we would have to work with the Corinthian Yacht Club, which owns that portion of the bay. And there's already a kind of a floating dock there that's not being used that may need to be rehabbed, but that is a very viable location. The second one that Commissioner Ghaffari, myself, and our town manager talked about was the China Cabin, which was interesting because one, it is owned by the town, I believe. It's ours.
The cabin?
Well, the area, it's within ours, but
Not Belvedere.
Well,
Belvedere.
it's a Belvedere address, but I have to look into that a little bit more. But we're thinking that since there is a deck around there, up here already around the maybe we can have some type of cooperative agreement between the China Cabin and the town where we can have a launch off of their facility. Landmarks, correct.
Yeah, because so like the issue with the bridge, for example, right, is you need access to Belvedere land, and like being able to enter there. But in theory, if you could launch off a structure in partnership with Landmarks and then go into the water, that's just on the water. That's not Belvedere water.
That's with Landmarks. It's their water that you can launch into.
Yeah.
But again, the issue that we see here is that it would need to go through Belvedere Planning Commission, get a conditional use permit, and if Belvedere is not interested in pursuing a kayak area within their jurisdiction, they may not approve a conditional use permit for Landmarks to have for a kayak launch off of their property. And this is just, I have not contacted Landmarks. I don't know if Commissioner Kafari has an idea.
Not yet.
These were just different ideas we were throwing out, but our first area, or the area that's promising is the area there behind 41 Main, and that's something that I think that the subcommittee and staff will pursue moving forward, to see if we can have some type of area there behind 41 Main and on the Corinthian Yacht Club area. If we can have some type of partnership with them, and that's something we're going to pursue.
Is that the old sushi restaurant behind the sushi restaurant? Okay.
Yes.
It's Olivia Sue Decker, real estate agent's office now, and I think she owns the building, but I actually think from what we've researched, none of the access goes through her property. It's actually not working with her. It's maybe working with Corinthian Yacht Club is really the main.
David, has anyone approached Corinthian yet?
No.
From the town? Okay.
Town has not approached them yet, no.
So in terms of a next step, action item 1, are we clear on what our ask is? I guess that's so what are we asking Corinthian for exactly?
Our ask would be if they would entertain the idea of providing an easement for the town for like a public pedestrian type usage easement for access to the bay.
And then what do we pitch as the benefit to them? Or the reason, what's their motivation, I guess, just to be good partners?
Be
in the
good
town?
partners and provide us with an area for town residents that are members of the yacht club to use.
Yeah, I think that's right. Anybody know any Corinthian Yacht Club members on the commission here? Well, we can.
I think I know some, yeah.
We can follow up later.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I think we all have contacts there. I think it's for all these pieces, it's trying to work with them and identify these blockers that are going to be. So in these 3 sites, the 41 Main Street, or not a blocker, but just like an impediment that keeps you from the water. Second, on Beach and Main Street is that Belvedere is not interested, but also I learned today just had to do with bicycle traffic, but that the deeded property that's underneath there is from the Belvedere Land Company, and according to the person I was talking to, this is totally just serendipitous was that land is the Belvedere Land Company said it can't be developed. I don't know what that limit on what they gave the property, but at the same time, Belvedere still has to say like, sure, do it. And the point was like, well, sure, we could say yes, do it, but then we still can't do it because that property was given to us by the Belvedere Land Company whenever.
I guess it's like, what's your definition? Developed is like stairs. Is that developed, right? If it's
Right. So
literally
it may be interesting to work on that, as well as with any of the post or planning commissioners in Belvedere. And I mean, we all know planning. I know some planning commissioners, and it's doing that discussion. So I would probably before our next meeting, maybe doing some of that internal work with those guys. And I think you have to go. Okay. If there's any other people that can connect on all 3 of those points, including with Landmarks as well. I'm a dues paying member of Landmarks.
Okay, there you go.
And I'm a docent up at Old St. Hilary's if you need me there. All right. Any other questions from you guys on SUP and kayak launch? Anything else, Mike, on that?
No.
Nope. Any comments or questions from? Yes, sir. Come on forward.
All right. You waited 2 hours for this one.
The Seagulls, I love them being here. Thank you.
Hi there, Evan Siegel. Just clarification question. Did you look at any sites in Richardson Bay?
Richardson Bay, we've talked about sites there to be incorporated with the Blackie's Pasture Beach restoration, but the problem is that area is closed from October all the way to March every year for the bird migration. And then with the mud flats, when you have the low tides, it's just you won't be able to even launch anything out there.
So the only thing I would, the areas you're talking about, one, you've got the ferry on the one side, and then you've got a lot of boats and motorboats and sailboats. It's, you'd think you'd want, an area that is less, traffic.
Absolutely.
I can just imagine a tourist, on a stand-up paddleboard or a kayak going into the ferry. So just keep in mind. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for the comments.
Can we discuss? It's a good comment because it is worth keeping in mind that Strawberry, right by Strawberry Elementary, has a dock and a launch point. Like people do the, just because it's seasonal. It's a little deeper over there, so you have less of that mud issue. So that'd be the biggest concern too, is like, where is it deep enough to reliably get in and out? Because I've actually gone out and gotten stuck in the mud, exactly what he's talking about. And it's not pleasant. You're, like waist deep. It feels like being quicksand in a 1980s movie or something.
Yeah, there's a drawing, I should send it to you, when they were back in the early 70s, they were planning an overpass.
Yeah.
For Tiburon Boulevard to cut around the corner so there wouldn't be a bottleneck there. And on the drawing, there is a boat launch in Richardson Bay with a long jetty that goes out into the middle of the bay for that. So, I'll send you the photo to say like, here's one option. Because a little bit that's what they did in Mill Valley, but they have that jetty. It doesn't, super low tide, it's really muddy there. But that thing's out there pretty far. It's about there 20 feet out, 30 feet out. So
That's, if I may, that's unbelievable. I've never seen that image. I've seen the ones
I will
with,
send
like,
it. I will
the
send
Bay
it to you all.
developed, but never seen that one.
Yeah.
On the Richardson Bay one, I do think one thing we should consider is as the project, the rip, like as that gets fixed, maybe there's a way for us to just encourage launches in that area. It just is tricky with the tides, and the closure. So, we can't build any, I don't foresee us ever building like a proper launch or structure or anything in that area. But that doesn't mean as the riprap like gets cleaned up that maybe there won't be opportunities to encourage it. There's not that many people who launch from that area, which is still kind of surprising, because you're not going to have the interactions that we will have once we get something built up right there by the ferry and where the boats are at Corinthian. So anyways, thanks for the work, and all the time we did it, we never thought about the cabin. That had never come up. So it's good to see that there's some original ideas out there.
Greg's idea. Yeah. Come on forward.
Please.
Yes.
Price is right.
I was actually just looking at the China Cabin Today website because I was thinking about having an event there. And we took a little walk around the building because they were doing some painting, repairs to the roof. The place is in pristine condition. They charge a lot of money to rent it out. And I think that they would probably be reticent to have foot traffic going down to a boat, a launch. Yeah, it was just, it's expensive and it's nice, and not that it isn't a great idea, but I think it's a little unrealistic. But for your parties, go for it.
So reminding me, I think you can launch from Sam's docks, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen people do it before. I'm not sure if they allow
It's
that.
a private dock.
Yeah.
Is it Sam's own those?
It's Sam's is a private dock. And the ownership wouldn't say no to it's bad for business, but they don't want to encourage it because it's not good for business. And actually they've had some folks, like a bunch of kayakers just all of a sudden like showed up on their dock and like left their kayaks there, and that's like bad for business. Wow. Yeah. So, but they're private docks. Okay. Any other questions online? None. Okay. Well, thank you. We'll close this item. Done. Okay. Swimming pool.
Swimming
Yes.
pool.
So good.
Do you want to, Tim, you
Go
gotta
ahead.
go. Do you have anything or you want
Please go for it.
to? Okay, is she heading
We'll
out?
come back.
Should we you want to take a break? Or?
No,
Okay.
so we'll be fine.
So in swimming pool, there's kind of, I'm newer to it, so maybe with a fresh set of eyes, it seems like there are, roughly three options. There is the most costly and involved project that there is some excitement in the town for is building a dedicated new Tiburon swim facility. There is the middle option, I would say, is partnering with another swim facility. Really, Strawberry, I think, is the only real option I've heard there. We can discuss the current proposal from Strawberry is still a very high cost partnership. This would not be, the buy-in would be, it's in the order of $1 million kind of level. Maybe that could come down, maybe it goes up. But there's an ambitious kind of plan for a construction project there. And the idea was for us to partner fully on it. We'd have to get very clear on what the benefits would be, but it would come at substantial cost. And then there's everything else. I'd put the third bucket of ways that Tiburon would-be swimmers can meet their needs with existing infrastructure throughout the town. So I do think it's worth discussing on that third bucket that there is a bit of an information gap. I think a lot of people are unaware. You have to kind of break down what the needs are, and then people just have a hard time navigating, and maybe there's things we can do to help them. If we come back to option one of actually building the dedicated swimming pool, I think one of the biggest challenges is just going to be that's a very high ticket item, and there will have to be town council support. We can say whatever we want, but we're not going to be able to authorize that kind of expenditure from the town. And so we're going to have to hear from the town council with a majority vote that I don't know is there yet, that that's something they want to do. In the meantime, we can, I think, continue to do homework and research on what that might be. I've been talking to other municipalities that have done programs like this and built out swimming pools and what that looks like, talking about the demand. There's lots of excitement on how we would use it if we had it. But again, I think our biggest roadblock, and I invite anybody, on the commission or in the community, who, whether here on Zoom or otherwise, if people have ideas on actually getting that approved and budgeted, I think that's the biggest roadblock there. We wouldn't want to go into any kind of design phase or get too far along without that blocker. Yeah.
Only thing I'll add is, in the spirit of additional creative ideas as we explore these areas, the folks at the ranch, in the spirit of also, the focus here being opportunities for kids to learn to swim.
Mobile.
Yeah, there's a few new companies out there that are doing mobile pools. I call them temporary, whatever it might be, that are being utilized in other cities for lessons. Never had seen that before. That's something we'll be diving back into, for our next report. Unclear how realistic that is, but it would be, an interesting opportunity to continue partnership and deepen with the ranch. So we will be reaching out to those companies and just trying to learn more and understand if that is even a remote possibility for the town of Tiburon.
So Tim, you're gonna take that one, contacting that's great. Yeah. I spoke with Jessica at the ranch and she was interested in that idea and would potentially help, manage it. So I think that would be great to have some of those options. I think back to this information gap, I was wondering if it's worth just having a dedicated, website within the Tiburon, town site that just, it's Tiburon, /swim, right? Something very simple that goes through, because there are a lot of options. So, before we do the costly partnership with Strawberry Rec, there's also like anybody can swim. I think it's $500 for a quarter of swimming for a family of 4. There's no buy-in like TPC or BTC. That's a hard rate to beat. I mean, if you just, residence taxes alone, even if you amortize the swimming pool across the entire base of citizens, it's going to be hard to beat $500 for that family of 4. So that's one option that's interesting. There's lessons for non-members available, right now as well. And there's two kind of needs. There's a rec swim, kind of family swim. There's 3 really. There's lap swim, and then there's kids lesson specific with an instructor. I think those are the 3. So you can certainly get number 1 and number 3 at Strawberry Rec. But I think we need to make the information more clear on how it works. There's TPC. So TPC, I reached out to them. They're doing lessons for non-members. It's like teaching private lessons. It's only $78, I think, for a 30-minute lesson. So again, pretty reasonable. They have some availability. You can contact the aquatics director, Mike McDonald, there, and we can put this information out. Another one I think people aren't thinking about is the club at Harbor Point in Strawberry. Have you guys been over there? Every time I go there, it feels very underutilized. Their swimming pool looks empty. They do a $95 lesson for 20 minutes, or you can do a longer lesson, 50 minutes for more. They gave me the contact for the instructor there who's looking for more business. And then there's the mobile pool idea. So I think I think some people think their only option is Strawberry. They go on the website, it looks full, and then that feels like a big blocker for them. But maybe we can help get this information out there. So I think as the next step, I'm happy to gather some of this stuff. You could do the mobile pool research, and then maybe we could talk about. There was someone in the town office who said who's the webmaster. Maybe so maybe we figure out how to put something like that up, and I could work with you, David.
Thank you. With that, David, as I told the chair, I was supposed to be home.
You
I was
lost
supposed to
child
eat as
care
I
a while
can, so I
ago.
lost
Okay,
my-
thank you.
Someone is watching my children right now, but
Yeah.
not for much.
Tim's in charge of kids.
Won't call child protective.
Thanks, Tim. Sorry, we didn't meet our 8 o'clock goal.
We do have a hand up, Chair.
Okay. Any questions online? Yes, David?
Yes. Jenna?
Hi, it's Jenna. Just a quick comment about the pool. I just want to mention I'm a member at the club at Harbor Point. It's a decent option. One significant problem, though, is they don't have lifeguards, any lifeguards ever on duty. So when you're talking kids in a pool, it's, that's definitely not ideal. And they don't really have an area for kids to swim for a lot of the years. Now, during the summer, they do create a family swim area for a certain part of the day, but I wouldn't say that pool is like necessarily geared toward like swim lessons or just families. I think it's something they're working on, but I think the lack of a lifeguard, though, is a significant kind of issue there. But anyhow, it is a great place. That's where I kind of settled on to meet our family's pool needs. It's also nice. One thing with Strawberry Rec is you're just constantly having to like battle to get into the swim lessons. And you have to constantly be renewing your membership. And so it's not like a seamless, easy process. So anyhow, just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And one comment on that. Yeah, maybe not a good family swim option with lifeguard, but I think if you've got a lesson for the kid, then presumably the instructor is watching. They're acting as the lifeguard during the lesson.
Any other comments or questions online?
None.
David? Okay. Anything else on pool questions for? Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
There is I guess they're closing the Estuary Research Center on the
Yes.
backside.
Oh, yeah, on Paradise.
I don't know what's going to happen to that property. If it's,
Well, the state of, I do have some background on it. So San Francisco State owns it. And whether or not when they turn it over back to the government, because that's who they got it from originally, I'm always a little concerned about that with the current regime.
With state of California, though, right? Not,
California State, no, they
it's
gave.
federal, you're saying?
Yes.
Oh,
It used to be a federal location. So it used to be used for sonar. nets.
California borrowed it, but didn't
No, they
acquire it.
deeded it to California, to
Okay.
NOAA, then took it over.
Okay.
Then NOAA had it, and then NOAA didn't use all of it. So they said, California State University, would you guys, San Francisco, would you like to have this? They then have it, and they've been operating since the early 1970s. And then NOAA has a big warehouse there as well. But then because San Francisco State's pulling out, I don't know what the solution is on that. There's a lot of other people looking at that, and it's also that's in Marin County. That's not the town of Tiburon.
okay.
So, so hopefully our supervisor's thinking about that, but it's not Tiburon, it's Marin County proper.
Really?
Yeah.
So that backside, even though Tiburon goes all the way up to it, it's not.
Only up to parts of it. I mean,
It's unincorporated.
Oh,
Unincorporated in Marin County.
got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting site,
It is an interesting site. It's an interesting for many things.
just because, it's hard finding a big open area.
Yeah, it's a
and that's
huge
not going
flat
to cause
area.
huge traffic issues. So, okay, thanks.
All right, thanks, Evan.
Thank you.
I mean, that is a good question, though, what to do with that site. Mike, do you have anything?
Yeah, I had a quick question. And when you did your research, did you also look into what the Tiburon Hotel offers? They have a pool.
Oh, the Tiburon, that's right. No, that's another good one to add to the list. And I think they do day passes. And I think it's a great family. It's no lifeguard again, I think.
Oh,
But it's a more mellow pool. It's less deep, I think, than part of the club at Harbor Point Pool. So I think that's a great one as well. Thank you. I think there's a website, they might already be on, there's like resortpass.com. Have you heard? There's a couple of these websites. They might be on one of those already.
But I like your idea of having one place that someone can just look and say,
Look, it's
some
like, I
options
need
for
to swim.
Tiburon,
Yeah.
and all the things you can do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to memorialize that. There is a little bit of kind of informal networks that allowed people to become kind of, learned on it. Is you all of us probably encountered that when we moved here about something like, oh, don't you know about that? You're like, no, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
So I think any way that the town can do that, and then I think that maybe a lot of the people from the Parents for Parks might be good resources for
Yeah.
that. So, anything else on pools? No. On the Zielinski Park, I'll jump to Zielinski Park. You don't have to throw the slides up, David. It's okay. So, Zielinski Park, which is right behind us here, would have been a great solution in the long run a while ago if the town of Tiburon and basically the library agency had worked together years ago and said like, hey, how do we make a civic statement? But they didn't. And I think that one thing is members of the community, and I don't know who I'm speaking to on this, but is just staying engaged on that because nobody thought about like, gee whiz, shouldn't we put a playground here and make this a civic area? And wouldn't it be great to have it, the town hall, you have the library here and have it as a big gathering area? Now it's kind of like a kind of works, but kind of doesn't work kind of situation. So, but the area back here, there just isn't enough room. No, we've looked at a couple deeded pieces and it's also near a wetland. So you'd have to do some kind of wetland study and how it would impact Railroad Marsh. I mean, it all depends what happens with the commercial property to over here with the Chase Bank area, but that would be the only kind of area where you could put a play structure. So, I mean, I think that's great. They're activating it for community events and other things like that. But I think for a play structure, there just isn't enough room for it to be a destination like play area. I think you'd really have to, it'd be very hard. So. Unless for some reason that are the neighbors who own the property, the Chase parking lot say like, we'll deed you parts of this and we want to do this. So that's.
Doesn't that happen all the time where like they want to develop multifamily housing and the town says you have to give us part of the land for a playground or something?
Yes. Yeah, and there is a number of town council members who are aware of this and the restrictions on this, but to make it an all-inclusive bigger playground area that would be like a destination that would be tied in with the civic activities here. It just isn't there. But and I talked to one board member with the library, and she's like, "Yeah, we really haven't talked a lot about that the play area." The one concern that the librarian had was just the amount of traffic and some other pieces that are going on in their parking lot, which is pretty full all the time. During the middle of the day, it's pretty full. Actually, the staff doesn't even use that. The parking area for parking, they actually have to pay to park in the Chase lot over here. And then the town might need more charging stations over there if they develop this lot. So it's all it's parking surface lots may become more of a challenge as we look at all these different things. So it'll be interesting to know where to put these play areas, but it may not be a possibility here, but there could be a trade-off, right? It's like, yes, we want a play structure here, and then maybe the developer goes like, great, I want higher density. Let me go up another story, right? Or something like that. I mean, that's beyond our pay grade on that area, but agree with you on that. So, okay. Any questions on Zielinski Park? No. David, the last item I put on there for you was the maintenance. So the reason I brought this up was that just because a lot of you're talking about the open space, but also for maintenance for all the play area, the park areas. So
Yes, absolutely. So with the open space, if you've had a chance to go visit the EV property lately, it's the one on Gil Martin, just north of Via Preso. We went out there and spent a lot of time in the fall and the spring, and with mechanical means, I don't think that place has ever looked this good. Cleared up a lot of invasive species. Reduced fire loads out there. We spent a lot of time removing vegetation. We're very lucky that last year Town Council authorized $160,000 for us to spend on fuel fire reduction. This current fiscal year 26, we're asking for another $160,000 to continue with our mechanical means to reduce fire loads. This money switching over to mechanical means pretty much tenfold, hundredfold more work we're able to get out because it is mechanical mastication out there and just removing a lot of that French broom and dry vegetation that's taken over a lot of these areas. So that's one thing that we're very excited about. This fall coming up again, we're using our short-term open space implementation plan that was recommended by Post and approved by Town Council a few years back. So we're going off of that book. This fall, we're going to probably do some work in areas near Ring Mountain that we haven't touched before. And we own also some open space up on the outskirts going close to Highway 101 and Corte Madera. We have some open space out there that we're going to be going out there with our mastication machines and going out there and cleaning up a lot of that area as well this fall. As far as parks maintenance, again, in our fiscal 26, we're requesting additional funds to basically help hire contracted workers, companies to help assist the town with our shortfall of staff to continue and exceed maintenance needs in a lot of these parks, knowing that, we're going to be hopefully implementing more amenities here. So we're going to need the help. So we're, again, in our fiscal year 26, we're requesting Town Council to provide us with additional funds that we can use towards contracted landscaping companies that we currently use, like Gardeners Guild, a lot to help us maintain what we have and keep afloat.
at this time, do you have what that increase is for the parks maintenance? Because I believe in the strategic plan, it was pretty much, they said, you guys are at least in full FTE short.
Yeah, what we did is we took that amount and based on those 12 areas out of the 30 CIPs, we kind of just spread it out there. I don't have the exact amount on there, but I can send.
Well, I just think you may want to add that in when you do your June 4th presentation. Someone's going to ask that question, like, what's the incremental increase? The town strategic plan said you guys should increase your FTE by 1. Is that 1 or how does that equal into? I think someone's just going to ask that question. So.
Absolutely.
Any other questions you guys have for David on this item? I guess the one question I do have on the area that you guys did the mechanical piece, does that mean that there is actually a path that one could walk from Via Paraiso up to the hippie tree, up to that trail, as opposed, because there really wasn't a direct way to do that. Do you guys know what I'm talking about on the?
So that lower bowl that's there, yeah, that's all cleaned up with the pampas grass removed. You can actually walk down that and all the way up to the hippie tree from there now.
Because the only way, if you want to walk from Tiburon Boulevard to the trail to up Gilmartin, you're walking on the street.
Yeah.
And there's no sidewalk. So, and there's a little.
So you're saying go up Gilmartin where there's a little bit of sidewalk, turn on Via Paraiso and
then up that open space area. Yeah, if you don't, let me know if you do that. Mike, I'll bring my dog and we'll walk up there.
Yeah.
And our next step is actually in the fall, not only the areas near Ring Mountain, we're going on the north end of the hippie tree behind Rock Hill. And yeah, so we're going to do all of that all the way up to Avenida.
Okay. And the place up on the Ring Mountain you're talking about over by the water tower.
Correct.
Yes, where the fireworks were put off.
Wait, you're saying a connection from Rock Hill to Hippie Tree? To Hippie Swing? No? Okay.
we're gonna go out there and do more work. There's an area of open space between the homes on Rock Hill and north of the Hippie Tree, all the way up to Avenida. We have an open space out there.
But there's not actually a Rock Hill connection, right? Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of these connections that you wish
Yeah.
they were there.
A lot of misconnections.
Yes, yeah. Well, and its topology is a little bit in your way there too, I think. But okay, I guess are there any comments on the maintenance for both the open space or parks? Anybody online? No, okay. On to action items. So the first action item was basically a little bit what David just talked about, is that from the both the survey that came back from the mini parks and this discussion is that a need for more maintenance. And it's not clear to the town, the residents, when maintenance is going on, when it'll be cut. And I don't know if there's a way to just, and so the goal is could we recommend to town council? I know this came up earlier, I think when Jim Wood was on the commission, and so this predates David and I from being here, is more transparency on FTE and scheduling for maintenance in the parks. So like, for example, at Bel Air Park, somebody called me, they're like, well, when are they gonna mow the lawn? And I'm like, I don't know when they're gonna mow the lawn. So that's where this action item comes out with. So kind of this, the question on this is consideration at a future meeting for staff and public works to additional maintenance and improve transparency on parks maintenance based on the surveys and based on the approved master plan. So are they meeting their goal of this? So we can either go like, nah, that's not an action item. I don't want to take that on. But it's, I mean, basically it's something that then we would ask at a future meeting to David to say like, hey, did you guys follow up on this item or what's going on with this item? That's a little bit of it. So we can punt on it and move to the next item. Maintenance was, I was totally surprised how high it was ranked on the mini park survey. And we've heard it from just a lot of people like, hey, how's the maintenance doing this? And also we know from the strategic plan that we were underfunded.
Do we have, can we ask questions?
Yes.
Regarding the mini parks, you put together this great you put together a great survey, you took in a lot of community feedback. There seems to be some clear priorities for updates and enhancements. Do you feel like that's ready to send to town council with this as well?
Oh, well, we went to town council and asked for a planner. I think that once they hire the planner that we could then work with that feedback from that survey. So I think that's already on its way.
Oh, it's already,
Yeah,
okay.
so I think really the only item that in placing this action item on the agenda was the members of our town are like, hey, are you guys maintaining things? And we're concerned about that. And I heard that loud and clear from all the parks, from the survey. So I just wanted to get a sense for like, how do we then, as a post commission, communicate to them like, yes, we hear you, and town, you guys should do blankety blank or whatever it should be. However, within our power, we can't really say you guys need to give us a report, but I don't think town council, I mean, other than how many people are hired in this area. And we asked, and Patrick came and gave us a presentation, but I don't know if we really asked hard enough questions in that presentation. Am I kind of it's on me a little bit reflecting back. But nobody knows when they're going to do maintenance on these parks. There's a schedule because when they're going to be, because I see the person trimming the trees over at Tether Park on a certain day. He's always over there. We're changing mulch or doing things like that. So we know things are going on. And I think a baby diaper changer station was installed. It was, see, but I had to ask you that. There was so I asked for a baby, not that I have a baby, but somebody said like there's no diaper changing station in any of the bathrooms over at by Blackie's pasture. There's nothing there. So it's like, well, that's an easy thing to add. So I sent an email out because I happen to know the people to send an email to. But is that really the right way to get things done in a town? No, not really. There should be a mechanism in which you send something in and a ticket order goes into Public Works and Public Works addresses it and then sends you a nice email and says, hey, we finished this. So I'll give a great example. San Rafael's a different city, but at Albert Park, the baseball field, my wife was sitting there waiting for my son's game to start. She sent in a 311 request into San Rafael and said, you need to mow this. The lawn here is crazy. The grass is all over the place. can you fix this? They came in the next day and literally mowed it, sent her a text saying, we've mowed it. And now, unfortunately, now Lisa's on my wife is now on every text about everything that's going on in Public Works in San Rafael. But that's how it got addressed.
Well, is that another, okay, so that might be another action item, but for this one, is there a way to make the maintenance ask more specific or more pointed so that they can actually be held more accountable if they decide to act on it?
San Francisco, it's funny, I don't know if you noticed, they've got the Solve SF app that they're marketing now that is exactly, it's like, hey, there's some graffiti here. Hey, there's a maintenance. It's a ticketing system, like you said, an easy way for people. So I imagine there's actually like a software product or like we could see what
So
San Francisco used and.
Maybe we can just make our action item a request that the town instate a ticket system for maintenance requests and that they publish, like that they create some public transparency around it.
Yeah.
We do have a system, Civic Plus, that we use, and we get, you go around and you can submit any problems or concerns you have, and it goes directly to Public Works as an item, and then Public Works staff replies back to the sender and creates a ticket and repair and makes those repairs, or it's called Civic Plus, and it's on our website.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So we got to market that
I
better.
don't know if we know about that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Civic Plus. Yeah, I get CC'd on some of those just in case staff at the yard misses them, so I just follow up sometimes.
Civic Engage, because there's.
Yeah, Civic Engage, but it
Civic.
comes, yeah, Civic Engage.
Okay, so it's called Civic Engage.
Yeah. County of Marin uses that as well. Some other jurisdictions around here, I believe, Corte Madera, Larkspur.
So do you think that, given that, we still want to ask town council something?
I mean, one of the things my discussions was when we go out there with the sign program that we'll put in there, on there, maybe a design where, when maintenance is done here, garbage is picked up Tuesdays and Thursdays or every Friday, landscaping work done the first.
Yeah, or something, if you have a question or need something that needs to happen here, here's a QR code to go to this.
The Civic Plus, and it goes right to them. Yeah, I get those all the time. I get the CC, pothole here, graffiti here, so-and-so neighbors wasting water. So we get them all.
So I'm literally on our website. Where is this?
I just had to Google it. I couldn't find the link on the website.
I'm on the town website, Mr. Issue. Sorry for those that, if anybody's.
If we wanted to change the placement of it or publicize it better, make it more visible, would that have to go through town council?
No, we can do that. Yes. You know what, Chuck, Cheryl Holmbrook, I'll check exactly where's that. A lot of these are from our previous website, a lot of them were kind of hidden and it was very hard to find. And I will admit that I actually just Google it and it comes up instead of going onto our website and trying to search it. But it should be under our Public Works Department's Public Works page.
I'm there. I have the form center, but I'm still in the town of Tiburon.
Let me check.
If you Google it, it'll come up. Sounds like we have some work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what we'll do is maybe table this and not have an action item so we can move forward on the other bigger item. And then David, I think, so that's the intent of it. And I guess asking you three, does this we need to figure this out and this needs to be done better.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to waste everybody. Okay. All right. So why don't we table this action item? We'll bring it up in our next meeting.
So it is on the front page. So as soon as you go to townoftiburon.org, report a problem. So we've been updating the page. So you click on report a problem and then you're able to scroll down, use this form online. You click on it.
Where, David, I'm on there, downtown.
Well, why don't we take it offline?
Yeah. I don't want to waste everyone's time, but.
So as soon as you go to, townoftiburon.org.
We'll follow up after that.
Yeah.
So let's do a bit, but I think that would help. But I think in schedules and other on the signage stuff is a way for people to report that an issue, right? Because we're not going to be a 311 size, but there needs to be a way. There needs to be and also a feedback loop back to the members of the community. Go like, oh, that it's been closed. Great, thank you. As opposed to why isn't it happening yet? I think that's just drives people crazy, right? So, and you experience that as well as a resident in your town. Okay.
Procedure perspective, do you need technically vote to continue this item to date uncertain? Even though like, 'cause I know, I know.
Yeah. I don't know. We're not, we're just saying that this action item, it's going to be a no decision. So we just, it's a no decision. So,
We did that at council like that too.
Yeah.
so, but actually, just to ensure that, is there anybody online with any comments?
No.
No hands. Okay. So we're just going to not have a decision on action item 1. We will, however, bring it potentially up as a discussion item in the next meeting, in a follow-up meeting. So we're on to action item 2, which I love how it's worded, with the exception, I would say something within this with having the post commission recommends to town council for consideration of a future meeting, and in your next meeting, in this meeting that they're having tomorrow, really, to request town staff to hire a landscape designer to provide preliminary designs for the sanitation pond, a nature-based playground area at locations as specified in the master plan, and covered picnic areas at Blackie's Pastures, all taking into consideration the subcommittee's recommendations.
Yeah. Do you want to move?
I want to make,
Yeah.
Capture that.
well, I just said, the only thing I added was per the recommendations of the subcommittee's recommendations
Yeah, and then we would say instead of future meeting, May 21st
in
meeting.
the May 21st meeting.
You could say hire a landscape designer to provide a preliminary design in line with the subcommittee's recommendations for the sanitation pond site, nature-based playground. And I don't know at locations as specified in the master plan what that means, because I don't think we had a nature-based playground in the master plan at that location, did we?
I believe we did, yes.
No, but I think to Mike's point, when I just read that there, the back of my mind, I was like, that's too specific. And it's not I think it was kind of like in the zones and that was it. So I think that to be more explicit on what
You
these guys
could say, yeah,
recommended.
you could say a nature-based playground and covered picnic area between Blackie's pasture and the bathroom or something.
Yeah.
In the area between Blackie's pasture and the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want to read that again while you just did that in your head?
Post commission to recommend for town council consideration at the May 21st meeting to request town staff hire a landscape designer to provide a preliminary design in line with the subcommittee's recommendations for the sanitation pond site, a nature-based playground and covered picnic area between Blackie's pasture and the bathroom in Lineal Park.
Yay.
I second that motion.
Approve.
Roll call?
Oh, comment? Any public comment?
Oh, is it? Yes. Sorry. So that's the motion out there. Thank you, Francisco. I appreciate you. Is there any comments?
None.
All right, I'll close public comment. Thank you, sir. I wish I need to put the record button on my phone though, so I can, so roll call, please, sir.
Chair Holmbrook?
Yes.
Vice Chair Moon?
Yes.
Commissioner Judge?
Yes.
Commissioner Gafari?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great.
Thank you.
This is
All right.
exciting. So
Uh,
we'll go tomorrow and this gets sent to them in time for tomorrow too.
The agenda's already set. This will have to be presented to them when
Okay.
that
So
was passed.
in the meeting tomorrow, you'll say, and this motion was passed as part of this, which
Yeah.
contains all this information.
Yeah.
So that way it fast tracks it a little bit more versus them going, well, gee, what does Post thought about this?
Okay.
Right.
Great. David, can you send us a copy of the revised passed motion? Great. Thank you.
Sure you're gonna have time to do that? I mean,
Oh, yeah. It's a video. I'll it's recorded. Yeah, it's already recorded. I'll listen to it. So meeting adjourned?
Meeting's adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you.